Story 1. Secretly learned my fiancé's language after his mother kept insulting me and calling me unfit, then used it in my wedding speech to call her out in front of everyone. So, I'm engaged to a wonderful man. He's not from around here originally. He came to this country to go to college, and that's where we met. We were in the same program. He's honestly the kindest, most caring person I know. He always treats me with so much love and respect. I really couldn't ask for a better partner. We get along great, and things are usually pretty easy between us. I am head over heels for him. The problem, and it's a pretty big one, is his mother. From the very start, it's been obvious that she just doesn't like me. I have tried to be nice and respectful. I've tried to get to know her, but nothing seems to work. I think, and my fiancé agrees, that it's because I'm white. His mom really wanted him to marry someone from their home country. It's not just that she disapproves, though. She actively makes me feel unwelcome, which is really hard. It puts a strain on things even though my fiancé and I are happy. It's like this constant shadow over our relationship. The first time I met his parents was, well, a disaster. We went over to their house for dinner. From the moment I walked in, his mother completely ignored me. I tried to say hello and be polite, but she just wouldn't acknowledge me. It was like I wasn't even there. My fiancé tried his best to include me in the conversation, but his mother refused to engage with me at all. She spent the entire evening speaking only in her native language to her son and husband, even though I knew she spoke English. It made me feel incredibly awkward and out of place. My fiancé and even his father seemed uncomfortable with the whole situation. Dinner itself was incredibly quiet and tense. I felt like I was intruding on a private family moment, even though I was supposed to be a guest. It wasn't just being left out of the conversation. I felt physically separated from them at the table. To make it even worse, when I reached for one of the dishes, she actually grabbed it away and served her husband and son first, making sure I was the last one to get anything. My fiancé was absolutely mortified. He apologized over and over again on the way home. He kept saying how unacceptable her behavior was and that he was so sorry I had to experience that. He promised me that if things didn't improve, he would limit our contact with her. He didn't even wait for me to say anything. He just started apologizing and defending me right away. It was clear he was just as upset about it as I was, maybe even more. The whole meeting was just awful, and it gave me a pretty clear idea of what I was in for. Of course, there were other times I had to see his mother, even after that first terrible meeting. It was his birthday, and he really wanted to celebrate with his family, and he wanted me there too. I get that he loves his family. Each time, I found myself battling with myself. I want to be there for my partner, but I am scared and worried to go. I was hoping maybe things would be better, but she was just as cold and indifferent as before. It became a pattern. She would point at my hair, my face, or my clothes and make comments in her native language and then laugh. It was obvious she was making fun of me. One time, she pointed at my hair and said something about it looking like a bird's nest and asked very loudly if I even knew how to take care of myself, and then she just laughed. My fiancé got really defensive and started arguing with her, but when I asked him what she was saying, he just brushed it off and tried to change the subject. He said his mom had made a comment about my large nose and very pale skin. It was clear he didn't want to repeat the mean things she was saying. I felt like I was not only being excluded but also actively picked on, and it was incredibly hurtful. It's not like I'm some terrible person. I honestly think I'm a pretty good catch. I'm not trying to brag, but I'm considered attractive. I was valedictorian of my college class, and I actually have a higher paying job than my fiancé. It's not about the money, but it shows I'm responsible and hardworking. We split all our expenses. I give him thoughtful gifts, and I've even been learning to cook his favorite dishes from his home country. I am trying my very best to show my commitment to him. I also actively try to make our home life easier. I take care of a lot of the chores and errands, just to show him that I'm a partner in all things, not just the fun stuff. I really tried to win his mother over, too. I bought Christmas gifts for both her and his father. I put a lot of thought into them, trying to find things they might actually like, but we were never even invited to their Christmas celebrations. His father is always very kind to me, which I appreciate. It's really just his mother who's the problem. It feels like no matter what I do, It's never enough. I remember giving his mom a really nice scarf, and she just looked at it with this disgusted look and threw it aside. Later, I overheard her telling someone else that it was cheap and ugly, just like my taste. It's things like that that really get to me. It's not just at his parents' house, either. At bigger family events like parties or weddings, she does the same thing. She'll glare at me from across the room, then whisper to other relatives, pointing at me and talking about me. If I try to approach her, she just ignores me and walks away. It's so obvious and so humiliating. It's not like she's hiding it. She makes it a point to physically turn away from me, making it very clear to everyone around that she's rejecting me. I saw her at one party praising another relative's daughter-in-law, saying how respectful and traditional she was, all while completely ignoring me. It was like she was trying to make a point to show everyone how much better this other woman was than me simply because she was from the same country as them. What's even more frustrating is that I know she speaks English perfectly well. She's a kindergarten teacher, so she has to. She deliberately chooses to speak in her native language to exclude me, to make me feel like an outsider in my own fiancé's family. It's like she uses the language barrier as a weapon. I realized that if I really wanted to connect with my fiancé on a deeper level, I needed to understand his culture better, and that included his language. I wanted to be able to share that part of his life with him. I thought it would bring us closer. I decided I was going to learn his native language. I planned to keep it a secret from him. I imagined surprising him one day by having a full conversation with him in his language. I wanted to see the look on his face. I wanted to show him how much I cared. So, I really committed myself to learning the language. I spent about 5 months working at it almost every day. I found all sorts of resources online, YouTube videos, language learning apps, everything I could find. I practiced speaking out loud, trying to get the pronunciation right. I really focused on being able to hold a conversation, not just learning a few words here and there. My main motivation was to connect with my fiancé and surprise him, but if I'm being completely honest, there was a part of me that also wanted to understand exactly what his mother was saying about me. And, well, I started to understand. It wasn't easy, but after a few months, I could pick up more and more of what she was saying during those family gatherings or when she thought I wasn't listening. I made sure to pretend I still didn't understand anything around her. I just kept quiet and listened. And what I heard, it was devastating. It was so much worse than I had even imagined. All those little comments, the whispers, the laughter, it was all so mean and so personal. I remember when my fiancé told his mother we were engaged. We were in the car and he had her on speakerphone. She immediately started going off about how he was marrying a white woman and how their ancestors would be turning in their graves. That phrase, rolling in their graves, made it feel like I was doing something wrong simply existing. It felt bigger than just her liking me, like I was going against generations of tradition. She said she was having a hard time accepting me. She said that if he had to marry a white woman, she wished he had at least chosen someone more homely, and that I was too modern to be a good mother. My fiancé defended me, of course, but she just wouldn't stop. She even said she'll probably raise our grandchildren to be spoiled and disrespectful, unlike children raised in our culture. She's completely unfit to be a mother in our family. That one really hurt. Then later, when we went to visit his parents to start talking about wedding preparations, his father was genuinely happy for us. You could see it in his face. But his mother, she was just as disapproving as ever. While we were there, she started ranting in her native language to my fiancé and his father. I could understand everything now. She was saying she wished my fiancé would reconsider the marriage, that an astrologer had predicted a black hole in the family because of me, and that I was infertile. She started complaining about how many of my white relatives would be at the wedding and suggested cutting people from my guest list. My fiancé refused, and they got into a big argument. I just stood there, feeling completely crushed, knowing exactly what she was saying. And to top it off, she lied to my father-in-law, saying I had been bragging about how much more money I made than my fiancé, trying to make me look bad. It was all so unfair and so untrue. I thought maybe wedding dress shopping could be a bonding experience, so I invited my future mother-in-law to come with me, my mom, and my sister. I was really hoping it would be a chance for us to connect, to have a nice time together. turned out to be anything but that. She was awful. She made some sort of negative comment about every single dress I tried on. She'd roll her eyes, make these little passive-aggressive remarks, and just generally make me feel terrible. The worst part was when I found a dress I absolutely loved. I felt beautiful in it. My mom and sister were tearing up, telling me how gorgeous I looked. But my future mother-in-law, she just looked at me and said in her native language that it was hideous. I understood her perfectly. While my mom and sister were gushing over me and how amazing I looked, his mom kept on picking on every dress. It was a stark difference. I was being showered with love, but I could feel daggers being thrown my way. And it wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. She was actively trying to ruin a happy moment for me. At one point, I went to the restroom for a second, and while I was gone, she started mocking my body to my sister, saying how the dresses didn't fit me right and making other nasty comments. I tried to hold it together, but I ended up crying in the dressing room. It wasn't just sadness. It was anger, frustration, everything. It was like realizing that all my efforts to be nice were just being thrown back in my face. It was a moment where I just felt completely defeated. I kept asking myself, why am I even trying? After that day at the dress shop, I just couldn't take it anymore. I knew I couldn't keep letting her treat me this way, but I didn't want to just yell at her or start a fight. I wanted something more impactful. I wanted her to understand how deeply she had hurt me. So I started thinking about the wedding, and I had this idea. What if I embarrassed her at the wedding in front of everyone? I know it sounds bad, but after everything she's put me through, I felt like I had earned the right to give her a taste of her own medicine. I wanted to put her in her place once and for all. But then I started to second-guess myself. I'm turning to you, Reddit. Would I be the a-hole if I went through with this? Update 1. Wow. Thank you all so much for the comments and suggestions. I really appreciate all the support and the humor. This helped me feel a lot less alone in this situation. I wanted to clarify a few things, though, based on some of the comments I've been seeing. First, I want to be absolutely clear that my fiancé has always stood up for me. He's been incredibly supportive from day one. He confronts his mother whenever she's being disrespectful, and he's always there to comfort me when I'm feeling down. He's truly my rock, and I couldn't ask for a better partner. I want everyone to know that he is 100% on my side in all of this. He's not enabling her behavior. He's actively fighting against it. As for my future mother-in-law, well, I think the best way to describe her is that she's just a mean old woman. I don't think she's necessarily racist in a broad sense. I think it's very specifically me that she has a problem with. It's a personal thing, her wanting her son to marry someone from her own background. I just want to be clear that this is all coming from her, and it's not a reflection of her culture or her community as a whole. I've seen some suggestions about reporting her to the school where she works, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to destroy her career. I might be angry and hurt, but I don't want to stoop to that level. I think her problem is with me specifically, and it's not fair to punish her professionally for something that's happening in our personal lives. I just want to deal with this situation directly without causing any unnecessary damage. Update 2. Hello again, everyone. I'm actually writing this from my honeymoon. We're happily married. I wanted to give you all an update because I've been getting so many messages and requests. It's been a celebration of our love and, well, let's just say a little bit of sweet revenge. So the wedding day finally arrived. Everything was beautiful, and I was so happy to be marrying the love of my life. When it came time for speeches, I decided I was going to do something a little different. I started in English, thanking all our friends and relatives for being there, sharing our special day. Then I switched to my husband's native language. You should have seen the look on everyone's faces, especially my husband and his family. They were absolutely shocked. I could see my husband's eyes welling up. I thanked his family in their language for welcoming me, which, in my mother-in-law's case, was not true at that point, but I was building up to something. I told them that learning their language was my wedding gift to my husband, a way to show him how much I loved him and how much I valued his culture. He was so moved. He came over and kissed me right in the middle of the speech. Then I turned my attention to his father. I thanked him, again in his native language, for his kindness and his genuine warmth. And then I turned to my mother-in-law. I thanked her very sarcastically for her unacceptance. I told everyone, in her own language, about all the insults, all the attempts to exclude me, all the cruel things she had said and done. I told them about the hideous comment she made about my wedding dress and how she told everyone that I was infertile. I could see her face turning redder and redder. She was clearly mortified. And then I said, I also want to publicly address the false claim my mother-in-law made about me bragging about my income. This was a complete fabrication designed to make me look bad in front of her family. She's absolute trash and a piece of garbage that was picked up from dumpster. After I addressed the specific things my mother-in-law had done, I broadened the message. I said, still in her native language, that skin color and ethnicity shouldn't matter when it comes to love. I explained how much effort I had put into learning their language and embracing my husband's culture because it was important to me to be a part of his life in every way. I pointed out how my mother-in-law's behavior, her alienation and demeaning comments, had only served to create a divide. Then I looked directly at her and very calmly told her that if her behavior continued, she would have absolutely no access to any future children we might have. I made it clear that I wouldn't tolerate my children being exposed to that kind of negativity and prejudice. My husband was incredibly proud of me. He told me later that he had never felt more love for me than in that moment when I stood up for myself and for our future. I just ignored my mother-in-law for the rest of the evening. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of any further reaction. She, on the other hand, was clearly furious. She started arguing with my father-in-law and my husband, and eventually she stormed off. My husband said he was sure she would think twice before disrespecting me again. But the best part was the reaction from other relatives. So many of them came up to me afterwards, complimenting my language skills and saying how thoughtful it was of me to learn their language. They told me how much it meant to them. For the first time, I really felt like I belonged, like I was truly a part of the family. I really enjoyed the rest of the wedding, and I felt a huge sense of empowerment. I believe I made my point and I got the revenge I felt I needed. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted. Update 3. Hello again, everyone. We got back from our honeymoon, and I had a bunch of voicemails from my mother-in-law. My husband said he would support whatever I decided to do, whether I wanted to call her back or just ignore her completely. Honestly, my first instinct was to ignore the calls. I was still hurt and angry, and I wasn't sure I was ready to talk to her. But after thinking about it for a while, I decided to give her one last chance. I called her back and we agreed to meet. When I saw her, she seemed different. She was nervous, and she actually looked remorseful. And then, for the first time, she officially apologized. She said she had been very angry after the wedding, after my speech, but that she'd had some time to reflect. She said that a lot of relatives had called her out on her behavior and that it had made her realize how badly she had acted. She admitted that she had been harsh and unfair to me. She acknowledged that I had made a real effort to embrace their culture, learning the language and everything. She didn't specifically apologize for the worst things she'd said, like calling my dress hideous or saying I was infertile. That part was kind of glossed over, which I did notice. But it was a general apology and it seemed sincere. She explained that my husband is her only child, and she's always been very possessive of him. She said she had always pictured him marrying someone from their native country, and that she'd had a hard time accepting me because I was different from what she had envisioned. She said she regretted making me feel so unwelcome, and she promised to be better, to be more accepting. I listened calmly to everything she said, and then I accepted her apology. I told her I wanted to move forward, to try to build a better relationship. I appreciated her honesty and her willingness to try to change. I did make it clear that I had certain reservations. It's not like everything is instantly perfect now. This is more of a cautious step forward, and I'm hoping she'll actually change, but I'm not 100% convinced yet. After the apology, we actually started talking, just chatting in her native language. She told me some stories about my husband when he was a little boy, and it felt nice. It felt like we were actually starting to connect, maybe for the first time. I could see that she was trying, and I decided to try too. There were still some small things, though. Like I noticed she avoided looking me directly in the eye for too long, which made me think she wasn't completely comfortable yet. And then there was this one time when I cooked dinner, and she tried to compliment me, but it still came out a little backhanded. She said, "This dish is actually quite good for a white person's attempt. It's almost as good as how we make it." It was better than an insult, I guess, but it still had that little bit of insult in it. I know this update might not be what everyone was expecting. Some of you probably wanted me to cut her off completely or to continue the feud. But honestly, I feel like I made my point at the wedding. I stood up for myself and I let her know in front of everyone that her behavior was unacceptable. Right now, what I want more than anything is a drama-free family life. I want to move forward with positivity and give this a real chance to be a fresh start. I think what finally made her change her mind was the reaction from her own family. She said a lot of relatives had called her after the wedding and told her she was in the wrong. I think she finally realized how biased and unfair she had been. But, and this is important, I also know that old habits can be hard to break. I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt. I'm willing to try, but one wrong move, one return to the old disrespect, and the truce will be over. I won't hesitate to stand up for myself again if I have to. I am hoping for the best. We'll see how it goes. My husband and I deserve a happy and peaceful life, so let's hope for that. So that's where things stand. My mother-in-law and I had a heart-to-heart, and we're ready to try to start fresh. I'll keep you all updated. Update 4. Big news. Everyone, I'm pregnant. My husband and I are so excited to be starting this new chapter in our lives. We can't wait to meet our little one. And I'm happy to report that things with my mother-in-law have continued to improve. There's been a real positive shift in our relationship. She's much more accepting and kind to me now. She actually spends time with me, offers to help with things, and gives me advice. Some of it unsolicited, of course, but I'll take it. I try to reciprocate, to be understanding and open with her. Both my mom and my mother-in-law have been amazing. They both check on me regularly, making sure I'm doing okay. They've even been working together to help us prepare the baby's nursery. It's so heartwarming to see them bonding like that. It really feels like we're becoming one big happy family. There are still little moments, though, that remind me that things aren't perfect. Like the other day, we were discussing baby names, and I suggested a few that I liked. My mother-in-law scoffed and said, "Those sound so American. Wouldn't you want something a bit more cultured?" It was a small thing disguised as a suggestion, but it still stung a little. It's like those old biases are still there, just under the surface. My husband continues to be incredibly supportive. He's so relieved to see his mother finally making an effort, and he's just as excited about the baby as I am. And my father-in-law, he's been wonderful. He's building a baby rocker for the nursery, and he's already promised to build a treehouse for the little one when they're older. I'm so grateful for his love and support. Overall, things are so much better than they were before. I'm excited about the future, and I'm hopeful that our relationship with my mother-in-law will continue to improve. I'm looking forward to a future filled with love and hopefully no more drama. It really feels like everyone is in a much happier and better place now. We are very excited for the little one. Now on to the next story. Story 2. I found out my mom and sister lied to steal my inheritance to fund my sister's house. So I exposed them at her party. Now my mom has disowned me, and my sister is playing the victim. I, 15F, need to share what's been happening in my family because the events of last night have left me completely shaken, and I honestly don't know if I did the right thing. The situation with my sister, Emma, 24F, has finally reached a breaking point, and I feel like I've lost my entire family in one night. But to understand how things got this bad, I need to start from the beginning. I was never supposed to exist. At least, that's the impression I've always gotten from my mother. Emma was their miracle baby, conceived after years of fertility treatments and multiple miscarriages. My parents had almost given up hope when my mom finally got pregnant with Emma. She had the perfect pregnancy, and Emma was born healthy and beautiful. My mom loved to tell the story of how she cried for hours when she first held Emma, knowing their family was finally complete. Except, 9 years later, surprise, I came along. My mom has never tried to hide how unexpected and unwanted my arrival was. She tells anyone who will listen about how shocked they were, how they had to scramble to convert the home office into a nursery, how all their plans had to change. She laughs when she tells these stories, but there's always this edge to her voice, like she's still bitter about the inconvenience of it all. My earliest memories are of trying to get my mother's attention while she fawned over Emma. My dad was different. He would always try to make things more equal, but it was like fighting against a tidal wave. He'd take me for ice cream after school sometimes, just the two of us, and tell me how proud he was of me. He'd help me with my homework, attend every school event, and always made sure to celebrate my achievements, even if Mom didn't care. But 3 years ago, everything fell apart when he died in a car accident. It was raining heavily that night, the kind of rain that makes it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Dad was driving home from work when a drunk driver ran a red light and crashed into his car. He died instantly, they told us. I remember sitting in the hospital waiting room, hoping it was all a mistake, that he'd walk through those doors with his warm smile and terrible dad jokes. But he never did. The funeral was the first time I saw just how different my mother's love for her 2 daughters was. Emma was allowed to completely fall apart, sobbing dramatically and needing to be supported by everyone. Mom spent the entire time comforting her, making sure she ate, holding her hand. Meanwhile, I sat alone in the corner, trying to hold myself together because I knew no one would comfort me if I broke down. That's when things really started to get worse at home. With Dad gone, there was no one to balance out Mom's favoritism anymore. Emma moved back home after graduating college, claiming she needed time to find herself while grieving Dad. That's when our house turned into a complete nightmare for me. Every morning I'd wake up to find a list of chores taped to my door. Laundry, dishes, vacuuming, cleaning the bathrooms. It was endless. If I didn't finish everything before Mom got home from work, there would be hell to pay. Meanwhile, Emma would sleep until noon, spend hours getting ready, then go to her cushy office job where she basically just answered emails all day. When she got home, she'd collapse on the couch complaining about how exhausted she was while I scrubbed floors or made dinner. I remember one particularly bad weekend, about 6 months after her dad died. I had a huge science fair project due on Monday, the kind that could actually affect my final grade. I'd been working on it for weeks, and I just needed Saturday to finish up the display board and practice my presentation. But Friday night, Emma announced she was hosting a dinner party for her work friends the next day. Mom immediately volunteered me to clean the entire house and help prepare the food. When I tried to explain about my project, Mom exploded. She started screaming how I was just looking for excuses to be lazy. She ended up throwing my project materials in the trash, saying I needed to get my priorities straight. I spent all Saturday cleaning and cooking, then stayed up until 4 a.m. trying to redo my entire project. I ended up getting a C because I was too exhausted to present it properly. That incident led to one of our worst fights ever. I was so angry about my grade that I finally snapped. I screamed at Mom about how she was ruining my chances at a good future. Emma jumped in, calling me dramatic and ungrateful. She started listing off all the ways I was a burden to the family. The fight turned physical when Emma grabbed my phone and threatened to throw it against the wall if I didn't shut up and show some respect. I tried to grab it back, and we ended up in a full-on brawl, shoving each other and pulling hair. Mom had to physically separate us, but of course, I was the only one who got punished. I was grounded for a month, lost my phone privileges, and had to write Emma an apology letter. That was also around the time I started noticing money going missing from my piggy bank. I've been saving up birthday money and allowance for years, dreaming of buying a laptop for school one day. I noticed the stack of bills seemed smaller than I remembered. When I counted, over $200 was missing. I confronted Emma about it, since she was the only one who had been in my room recently, supposedly to borrow a sweater. She denied everything, of course, and Mom took her side. They both gaslit me, saying I must have miscounted or spent the money and forgotten about it. But then I found receipts from the mall in Emma's purse, receipts for exactly the amount that was missing from my savings. When I showed them to Mom, she just shrugged and said Emma probably needed the money more than I did, since she had real expenses to worry about. The hits just kept coming after that. Emma would borrow my clothes without asking, then return them stained or stretched out. She'd eat the special snacks I bought with my babysitting money, leaving the empty wrappers in my room like she was taunting me. She'd invite her friends over, and they'd take over the entire house, leaving me to clean up their mess while they went out partying. The worst part was how she would sweet-talk Mom into getting her way. She'd put on this sad, vulnerable act, talking about how hard it was to build her career while grieving Dad. Mom would melt, giving her whatever she wanted. Money, time off from responsibilities, expensive gifts. Meanwhile, I couldn't even ask for new school supplies without being lectured about how expensive I was to raise. Things got marginally better when Emma finally moved out a year ago. She'd saved up enough money, mostly because she never had to pay for anything while living with us, and found a small apartment across town. I was so relieved to have some peace in the house, even though Mom still compared everything I did to Emma. Emma would visit Mom several times a week, and I learned to make myself scarce during those visits. I'd hide in my room or the backyard, anywhere to avoid their toxic dynamic. They'd sit in the living room for hours, talking and laughing, while I tried to ignore how much it hurt to be so obviously excluded from their little club. That's when my grandmother, my mom's mother, became my real lifeline. She was nothing like Mom. She actually listened when I talked, remembered the things I was interested in, and never compared me to Emma. I'd spend weekends at her house sometimes, helping her in her garden or baking cookies in her kitchen. She taught me about different flowers and plants, sharing stories about her own childhood while we worked. She had this beautiful diamond ring that had been in the family for generations. Sometimes, when I was helping her clean her jewelry collection, she'd let me try it on. She'd tell me stories about how her grandmother had worn it during the war, hiding it in a loaf of bread when they had to flee their home, how her mother had pawned it to pay for medical treatment for her brother, then spent years working to buy it back. The ring wasn't just beautiful. It was a piece of our family's history. When Grandma passed away a year ago, it hit me harder than anything since losing Dad. She was the only person left who made me feel truly loved and valued. The morning of her funeral, I overheard Emma and Mom discussing how they would split up her jewelry collection before the will was even read. They were so sure everything would go to them. After all, Emma was the perfect granddaughter, and Mom was the only child. Imagine their shock when the lawyer read out that while most of Grandma's assets would go to Mom, her jewelry collection was to be split specifically. Some special pieces to Emma, and the diamond ring, that precious family heirloom, to me. Mom actually gasped out loud, and Emma's face turned red with anger. I could hardly believe it myself, but it made sense. Grandma had seen how I was treated. She knew this ring would mean more to me than just its monetary value. Mom tried everything to get me to hand over the ring for safekeeping. She said I was too young to be responsible for such an important piece of family history. She tried guilt trips, saying Grandma would have wanted the ring to be properly preserved. When that didn't work, she started making threats about how easily jewelry could get lost or damaged if I wasn't careful. Then, 2 weeks ago, Mom came to me with what she claimed was an emergency. According to her, Emma had badly sprained her ankle at work and needed a private nurse to help her at home. She said Emma's insurance would cover it, and she couldn't help because she was saving up for a new car. That's when she dropped the bomb. She wanted me to sell Grandma's ring to help pay for Emma's care. I refused immediately. Emma had a good job, and even if her insurance didn't cover home care, surely she could figure something out. Besides, this was my inheritance. But Mom wouldn't let it go. She started with guilt trips, talking about how families should help each other in times of need. She brought up how I never visited Emma, conveniently forgetting that Emma had never once invited me over. When emotional manipulation didn't work, she got nasty. She started bringing up every little thing I'd ever done wrong, every mistake I'd ever made. She said I was selfish and ungrateful, just like she'd always known I would be. She said Grandma would be ashamed of how I was behaving, using her memory to manipulate me even further. Finally, she pulled out her nuclear option. She threatened to cancel my upcoming trip to visit my dad's parents. She knew how much the trip meant to me. My paternal grandparents were the only family members besides Grandma who had ever treated me with real love and respect. I only got to see them a few times a year because they lived in a different state, and this trip was supposed to be for 2 whole weeks during summer break. After days of constant pressure, threats, and manipulation, I finally broke down and gave her the ring. I felt like I was betraying Grandma's memory, but I couldn't risk losing my trip to see my other grandparents. Mom took the ring to a jeweler that very day, not even giving me a chance to change my mind. I spent the next week avoiding Mom as much as possible, feeling sick every time I thought about the ring. Then last night, everything changed. I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw a post from Emma. It was an invitation to a housewarming party, complete with pictures of a beautiful new house she had just bought. She was bragging about being a homeowner at 24, calling it her biggest achievement and thanking everyone who had helped make her dream come true. My heart stopped when I saw the house. It was in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in our city, the kind of place where even small houses cost a fortune. There was no way Emma could have afforded it on her salary. And what about her supposedly sprained ankle? The party was scheduled for this weekend. How was she planning to host dozens of people if she was injured bad enough to need a private nurse? I was about to take screenshots when the post suddenly disappeared. Emma had deleted it, but not before I'd memorized the address and date. It was obvious what had happened. Mom had probably warned Emma that I might see the post and figure out where my ring money had really gone. The fact that they tried to hide it only confirmed my suspicions. Last night, Mom told me she was going to a work party and left the house all dressed up. I waited a few minutes, then called an Uber to take me to the address from Emma's deleted post. Sure enough, Mom's car was parked outside the house, which was lit up like a Christmas tree and full of people. Everyone I knew was there, including family members, friends, even some of my cousins who had claimed they were too busy to come to my last birthday party. They all froze when they saw me walk in. Later, I found out through my aunt that Emma and Mom had told everyone not to mention the house to me because I was having trouble in school and couldn't handle Emma's success. They had made me out to be some kind of problem child who needed to be kept in the dark. One of Emma's friends was holding a karaoke microphone. They were in the middle of some party game. Without hesitation, I walked over, took the mic, and started speaking. I told everyone exactly what had happened. How Mom had forced me to sell Grandma's ring under false pretenses, while they had lied about Emma needing medical care. I explained how Emma was now pretending to have bought this house all on her own when it was partially funded by my stolen inheritance. I didn't stick around to hear their excuses or see the fallout. I said my piece and left, taking another Uber back home. Mom came home about 30 minutes after I did, absolutely livid. She started screaming the moment she walked in, saying I had ruined Emma's special day out of jealousy and spite. She said I had no right to humiliate them in front of everyone, that if I had issues with her decisions, I should have talked to her privately. That's when she dropped another bomb. Apparently, Emma hadn't even known where the money for her down payment came from until recently. Mom claimed she only told Emma about the ring when she made her take down the Facebook post, wanting to prevent me from finding out. She said I had no reason to humiliate Emma, since she wasn't even aware of what had happened. But I don't buy that for a second. Even if Emma truly didn't know about the ring, which I doubt, she still accepted money that she knew must have come from somewhere. She was still willing to lie about having a sprained ankle. Mom says I've ruined everything, that most of the party guests left early, and Emma was devastated. Apparently, she broke down crying after everyone left, saying I had ruined what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of her life. Mom hasn't spoken to me since our argument last night, leaving for work early this morning before I woke up. Now that I've had some time to calm down, I'm starting to wonder if I went too far. Maybe I should have confronted them privately instead of exposing everything at the party. But then I think about how they lied to me and tried to hide everything, and I feel justified in what I did. They were never going to admit what they'd done unless I forced them to face it publicly. Still, I can't help but worry about what comes next. I'm only 15. I still have to live here with Mom for at least 3 more years. After what I did tonight, I can't imagine things will ever go back to even the pretense of normal. But maybe that's for the best. At least now, everything is out in the open, and I don't have to pretend anymore either. So here I am, wondering if I'm the jerk for taking my revenge in such a public way. I know I've probably destroyed any chance of having a relationship with Emma, and things with Mom are worse than ever. Date 1. It's been exactly 3 days since the housewarming party incident, and the situation at home has become almost unbearable. I feel like I need to document everything that's happened since that night, if only to convince myself I'm not going crazy with how they're trying to spin this situation. Mom didn't come home the night after my last post. She stayed at Emma's new house, the one my ring helped pay for, and didn't return until late the next evening. When she finally came back, she walked straight past me like I was invisible, even though I was sitting right there in the living room doing my homework. I could smell wine on her as she walked by, and she was carrying a small overnight bag. She went straight to her room and slammed the door so hard the family photos on the wall rattled. One of them actually fell and shattered. Mom didn't even come out to clean it up. I left the broken glass there overnight, curious to see what would happen. Sure enough, the next morning, Mom came downstairs, saw the mess, and immediately started screaming about how I was being passive-aggressive by not cleaning up my mess. When I pointed out that she was the one who slammed the door and caused the picture to fall, she got this scary, cold look in her eyes and said, "No, you caused this. You caused everything bad that happens in this family." That same morning, I started receiving a barrage of messages from relatives. Most of them were obviously coordinated. They all had the same basic message about how disappointed they were in my behavior, how I needed to apologize to Emma, how I was tearing the family apart with my jealousy. I didn't respond to any of the messages. Instead, I took screenshots of everything and saved them in a folder on my phone. Something tells me I might need proof of their behavior someday. The silence at home has become suffocating. Mom has stopped cooking altogether. Not that she cooked much for me anyway, but now there's not even any food in the fridge. When I asked her for grocery money yesterday, she laughed and said maybe I should sell something else if I wanted to eat. I've been surviving on the snacks I had hidden in my room and what little allowance I had saved up. This morning, I walked to the corner store and bought some bread and peanut butter. At least I won't starve. Emma hasn't tried to contact me directly, but she's been posting passive-aggressive things on social media. She's changed her profile picture to one of her and Mom together, captioned with some quote about how blood doesn't always mean family, and sometimes you have to cut out toxic people. The irony would be funny if it didn't hurt so much. Last night, I overheard Mom on the phone with someone talking about taking legal action against me for defamation. They were discussing how I had maliciously spread lies about the house purchase and deliberately tried to destroy Emma's reputation. Mom was saying she would support Emma if she wanted to press charges. I'm only 15. Can they even sue me? I started researching defamation laws online, but everything I found was confusing and scary. This morning, I tried one last time to talk to Mom. I knocked on her door before she left for work and asked if we could please sit down and discuss everything calmly. She opened the door, looked right through me and said, "I have nothing to say to ungrateful liars." Then she walked past me, got in her car, and drove away. I watched her car disappear down the street and realized this might be the end of any real relationship with my mother. I've started gathering important documents and scanning copies to save online. I've also been recording every interaction with Mom, keeping a detailed log of what she says and does. Something tells me I might need all of this documented, especially if they're serious about taking legal action. For now, I'm just trying to focus on school and staying out of Mom's way as much as possible. I spend most of my time in my room with the door locked. I don't trust her not to go through my things anymore. I've also started researching what options I might have if things get worse. I know my dad's parents would take me in a heartbeat, but they live 3 states away, and I'm not sure about the legal implications of moving while I'm still a minor. I'm trying to stay strong, but I'm scared about what happens next. Mom's threat about legal action keeps playing in my head. What if they really do try to sue me? What if they try to prevent me from seeing my paternal grandparents? What if Mom kicks me out? I know she legally can't, but she's proven she doesn't care much about what's legal or right when it comes to me. At least I finally stood up for myself. I just hope the cost of doing so doesn't end up being more than I can handle. Update 2. I guess it was inevitable that my dad's parents would find out about everything eventually, but I wasn't prepared for how quickly things would escalate once they did. It's been exactly 1 week since my last update, and the situation has completely transformed. It started with a phone call to my paternal grandparents. I usually try to keep our conversations light, not wanting to worry them with my problems. But this time, as soon as Grandma asked how I was doing, I just broke down. I couldn't hold it in anymore. The words came pouring out through my tears. The absolute silence on the other end of the line after I finished talking was terrifying. Then I heard Grandpa in the background asking what was wrong and Grandma's muffled voice explaining everything to him. There was some whispered discussion I couldn't quite make out, and then Grandma came back to the phone with a completely different tone. She started asking very specific questions, like was I eating properly? Did I feel safe in the house? Had Mom ever hit me? Then she wanted exact dates and details about when everything had happened with the ring. When I explained about Mom not buying groceries and making comments about me needing to sell something else if I wanted to eat, Grandma made this sound that actually scared me a little. After about an hour of them gathering information, Grandma told me they would be on the first flight out tomorrow morning. I tried to tell them that wasn't necessary, that I could handle things, but Grandpa took the phone and said words I'll never forget. We failed to protect you once when we let your mother pull away after your father died. We won't fail you again. True to their word, they flew in early the next morning. I was in my room when I heard a car pull up. They'd taken an Uber from the airport. Mom was at work, so I let them in. Grandma took one look at me and burst into tears, pulling me into this hug that made me feel safer than I had in years. Grandpa started walking through the house, taking pictures of everything with his phone. They insisted on taking me out for a proper meal right away. Over breakfast, they said that they'd already contacted their lawyer back home, and he'd put them in touch with a family law attorney in our city. They wanted me to come live with them permanently. I tried to explain about school and my friends here, but Grandma just took my hand and asked if any of that was worth staying in a house where I wasn't even being fed. We were just finishing up when Mom called. She was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Apparently, one of the neighbors had seen my grandparents arrive and called her at work. She was on her way home and demanding to know what they were doing there. I could barely get a word in before she hung up. When we got back to the house, Mom's car was already in the driveway. She was standing in the front doorway with her arms crossed, trying to look intimidating. Emma's car was there too. She must have called her for backup. What followed was probably the most intense confrontation I've ever witnessed. As soon as we walked in, Mom started her usual performance about how difficult and ungrateful I was, how I was tearing the family apart with my lies. But Grandma shut her down immediately. She pulled out a full manila folder of printed screenshots. Everything I'd sent them over the years about how I was being treated, plus social media posts and messages from relatives that proved the ring story. Then Grandpa spoke up. He talked about how Dad would be ashamed of how they treated me. Emma tried to interrupt, starting her usual crying routine, but Grandpa just talked over her. He said they'd already documented everything and were prepared to go to court if necessary, both for custody of me and to recover the value of the ring through civil action. That's when Mom changed tactics, going from aggressive to tearfully defensive. She started making excuses about how hard it had been as a single mother, how she'd done her best, how I was exaggerating everything. But Grandma wasn't having it. Emma then burst into tears and ran out of the house. Mom followed her, but not before turning back to scream that I was dead to her and she never wanted to see me again. Grandma just calmly replied, "That would make the custody transfer much easier. Now I'm sitting in a hotel room with my grandparents while their lawyer handles all the paperwork. They've already enrolled me in school near their home for next semester. Mom hasn't tried to contact me since she left, but Emma has been posting nonstop on social media about toxic family members and choosing your own family. I'm still processing everything that's happened in the past couple of days. The lawyer says the custody transfer should be straightforward since Mom has essentially abandoned me and there's clear evidence of neglect. They're also pursuing legal action about the ring, arguing that Mom and Emma committed fraud by lying about the medical emergency to coerce me into selling my inheritance. I know the road ahead won't be easy. I'm leaving behind everything I've known, starting over in a new city, new school, new life. But for the first time since Dad and my grandmother from my mom's side died, I feel like I have people in my corner who genuinely want what's best for me. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Mom's young fiancé demanded I call him Dad, despite me being 35. When I refused, he started crying about his duty of fatherhood and ran away to his parents' house. I'm a 35-year-old man and, for some backstory, my dad died when I was 19, leaving my mom with me and my 2 siblings. I'm the oldest. Took some time, but eventually my mom started dating again. We don't live together per se, but our houses are back onto each other and have a gate, so it's pretty common for her to offer to do my laundry, or me just go over for dinner or go look after our dog, that kind of stuff. Plus, me and my siblings go over there for dinner every other Friday night or so. A bit after she started, the men she's been dating have been getting younger and younger, and I've never had a problem with them. She's been very open to me and my siblings that she wants to get married again, and we've always been supportive, at least after the initial shocks, lol. The latest guy is by far the most serious, and they've been dating since around last June. He proposed at the start of autumn, and they want to get married next summer. Again, me and my siblings are fine with this because it's her life and we trust him. He's a nice guy and they clearly love each other. But anyway, so long and short is this weekend, her fiancé, let's call him Phil, calls me and asks me if I could come over. I say, yeah, sure, I'll be over after work, and I assumed he just needed help with some DIY stuff they're doing. When I get over there, he calls me Sport and says, we need to talk. I should mention, this is something he does to me and my little brother, calling us things like kid, sport, scout, little buddy, or my personal favorite, calling us red and blue, seemingly out of nowhere. My brother is 30, by the way. He tried it with my little sister, 28, once and called her princess once, but he stopped when she just stared at him. So, thing with Phil is that he reminds me a lot of Charlie Day's character in Horrible Bosses, and that his sole ambition has always been to meet a girl, get married, and have a family. When he told me and my brother this, my brother made some joke about how maybe our mom's going to come up short on the last part, and he got very upset. But they made up after. Anyway, so I go round and I ask if my mom's around, and he says no, it's just him and that we really need to talk man to man. I say, sure, and he starts talking about how he's always wanted to be a father, etc., and raise a son to call his own. And then he drops this bombshell by saying, now I know I can never replace your father, the man who made you, but it would mean the world to me if you could call me Dad. I'll admit it, I sniggered a little, and then I knew he was serious because he looked like he was about to cry, and he didn't drop it either. I asked if he really meant it, and he got really emotional and started talking about what it means to be a man, and how his purpose is to have and provide for a family, and he wants me and my siblings to be part of that family. Like he reiterated, he'll never replace my father, and this did rub me the wrong way a bit. But he's ready to step up and be my dad, and provide for and protect me and my siblings. And I'm just sat there thinking, dude, I'm a decade older than you and live in a separate house. I don't need providing for, and even if I did, I don't think a guy a third of my age who works part-time at the hardware store and is into collecting manga is the man to do it. No offense if you were into that, lol. Just, I don't know, I was a bit taken aback. I was in shock, so I just said okay. And he gets emotional again, but in a happy way, talking about how he wants to go camping or go to a baseball game. I don't even like baseball, lol. And how he joined the Lions this year and how he wants to bring me into it too as his boy, which just feels so surreal, even more so as I'm a Shriner. So all this talk of service and charity isn't the brag he thinks it is, because again, I'm 10 years older than this guy. Well, I ended it by just saying, this has gotten a bit too weird, and I was going home. He got very upset and I left. Called my brother and he agreed it sounds weird. Later, my mom called me and she wasn't disappointed, but admitted it's made him very upset and depressed. I told her that if he's embarrassed, he doesn't need to be. I get he's excited about the marriage and we can just laugh this off as a funny story. She then said that wasn't what he was upset about. He, and she too a bit, is upset about the fact he poured his heart out and I rejected him. She said, yeah, it is a bit cocky, but this is how he proves to himself he's a man. And I guess I was a bit angry and said something like, first off, it's not my job to certify what's between his legs, and second, this doesn't prove he's a man, it just proves he's a nut job. I apologized immediately, but she said she didn't want to hear it and hung up. She called back 10 minutes later and we apologized. And she begged me to just go along with it until he has some kids to call his own. I won't go too much into the details here, but she sort of let slip they plan to try IVF treatment because she's not ready to give up on being a mom just yet. And while I have my own thoughts about whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not here to litigate on that. We finished up fine and I reiterated I'd support her, and she agreed that it was definitely a stressful situation for me, but begged me to at least think about it, which leads me to here. I did think it over, and obviously I'm gonna say no. I had a dad and he died. Rest in peace, Dad. And that's the only dad I've ever needed, I've ever wanted, and I'll ever bestow that title on. I'm not asking if someone's unreasonable or what I should do. More so what I should say. This clearly means a lot to him for some reason, and I deeply love my mom, so want to try and minimize the damage, especially as we're still so involved in each other's lives and they live behind me. How can I make it clear to them as painlessly as possible that I think this is weird and borderline offensive? I really don't want to rip the Band-Aid off because I fear what it might do to the family. Edit. Showed my brother the post and he laughed so hard he started coughing LOL. Then said we should call him Dr. Phil and each other Blue and Red. So swapped the nicknames he gave us around. Thoughts? Edit 2. As people were asking, he has no access to my mom's money or anything like that. She rents the house and it came pre-furnished and otherwise has no real assets. She does make a lot of money anyway, so there's no pecuniary motive we could think of. Update. November 16th, 2024. Anyway, so I told both my siblings and we agreed we'd collectively put our foot down with Phil at our next family dinner next week. Especially after an incident where Phil referred to my brother as sport and asked if he wanted to go see a baseball game with him. Admittedly, I was a bit spurred on by what you all said and got involved, pinging him back with a note, "Tickets for me, Daddy?" And my brother responded with, "Daddy wants to meet all to himself? Hot." Phil took a few minutes to respond before saying he was shocked, speechless, and disgusted. He then messaged me in private to say he was utterly appalled and that he'd never disrespect his own father the way you boys did. I kind of lost it at this point and said, "Right, that's because you're not my father, Phil. You're a 24-year-old man-child dating my mother. You have no right to my respect, especially not to the respect a father gets." I immediately said sorry, but then blocked his number and left the group chat. Apparently, he sent a similar thing to my brother, who responded with more daddy stuff and Phil blocked him. Well, that aside, I don't think that family dinner is going ahead. After the original post blew up, it seems someone from his Lions Club found it and reported it to their chair or whatever, and Phil has either been expelled or resigned, or is in the process of one of the two. He has removed nearly all mentions of the Lions from his social media and no longer mentions being a member, with his last post on it being some cryptic goodbye post where he kind of drones on about what it means to be a man in the modern day and the duty of fatherhood bestowed on all men at birth. Really weird. My mom called me half in a panic, half in a rage after about the stuff I'd been telling about him, before breaking down and saying we need to meet, which we did and got my brother to go over too. I know he has temporarily moved back in with his parents in the next town over, but from my understanding, they still want to go ahead with the wedding, but I think that's more so because they've already spent money on it. When she said she was determined to have more kids, plural, my brother did step up and asked if she really thought that was a good idea at her age, and I pointed out that assuming she had the baby next year and she lived to 80, they still wouldn't have finished college. She just stammered on about how people live longer these days before breaking down crying and admitting she's not ready to give up on mothering due to some deep-seated trauma and fears about the family breaking apart that I won't go into for her sake. When we reassured her that we weren't going anywhere, she calmed down and we had a very good, honest conversation where she's agreed to drop the IVF stuff on the grounds that it'd be too expensive and unlikely to get greenlit. But she's still adamant it's scientifically possible and she should be allowed to do it from an ethical standpoint because she has to win that argument. Slack? And has agreed to look into fostering instead. Me and my brother highly doubt anything will ever come of that, so we're not that worried anymore. The very good news is she's also agreed to look into therapy/psychiatric help to deal with her trauma, and we've helped get her in touch with a nice lady in town to unpack all this in a more healthy way. So at least one person is getting the help they need. I have no idea what's happened with Phil or what's going to happen with him, but I did make it clear to my mom that he is not my dad. He's not even my stepdad. I'm not a kid and he's never going to be either one outside of legal. She relented pretty quickly. I think she's finally broken out of her shell at least, and we've agreed that if things go ahead, that's going to be a huge red line. Though I don't know if he'll want to be friends with me after all this LOL. Anyway, Thanks for the help on the original post, y'all. Edit. Bit of an update as I can't respond to everybody, but I think the marriage is off. Phil has gone AWOL again and has had a huge argument with his family as they've demanded he call off the wedding and date people his own age. This apparently made him snap. Me and my mom have met his mom and older brother, who said Phil is very insecure around girls his own age and has never been able to talk to them, hence his preference. This very deeply upset my mom, and after some begging from all of us, she has agreed to push the wedding back, though she wants to keep dating him. I have no idea where Phil is, though his brother assumes he's couch surfing with his dud friends, who have been sending me and my brother some not nice messages because clearly we're just jealous of the MILF hunter. If any of you socially inept are reading this, I don't need to chase middle-aged folk because I can talk to boys my own age like a normal person. Peace. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Sick mom made a new friend at her senior complex who called herself Annie and wanted to manage mom's medications. I set up cameras and caught her doing this to my mom. My 40F elderly mom, 70F, has been ill for quite some time and is on hospice. She was living in an independent living place where it was all elderly people in apartment-type units. She has been living there for about 6 or 7 months and made a few casual old people friends but mostly kept to herself, so I thought, a couple weeks ago, my boys and I were visiting my mom. We live right down the street and visit often. When a woman walks up to us with my mom, I extended my hand to introduce myself to this woman when she dismissed the handshake and instead went in for a hug and said, "Oh, I only do hugs for family, and we're pretty much family." Okay, a little weird coming from someone I've never met before and also never even heard a single mention of her. But I pretty much brush it off, thinking to myself that she's probably just really lonely or something. I asked my mom about this new friend and she just says that they met there at the old people place and she's been a really good friend to her. Great. I love when my mom has friends. It's important to have friends. But this woman just keeps giving me weird vibes and I can't pinpoint why. A few things that seem on to me. 1. My mom is moving to a more traditional apartment complex this weekend, and this new friend liked the new apartment complex so much that she decided to move to the same place as well. Her apartment isn't ready yet, but she'll be moving to the same complex as my mom next month. 2. She apparently bought my mom's "I have the world's best auntie" sweatshirt for Christmas. They had known each other for maybe 2 months at that point. 3. She called the other day too. I don't really know why. I guess to give me her phone number and more formally introduce herself to me. She talked about doing a lot of caretaking stuff for my mom. "Oh, I can manage her medications for her if you want." So I replied that while I appreciate the offer, there's a lot of controlled medications and hospice prefers to keep minimal people involved in the medicine stuff, and that taking on caretaking responsibilities for a friend can get exhausting, so it might be best for them to just focus on being friends rather than her wearing herself out trying to take care of her. She immediately went to my mom and made it sound like I was shit-talking my own mom, saying how she's just an exhausting person. Blah, blah. When I confronted new friend about going to my mom and relaying our private conversation in a totally twisted way, the friend lied and said that my mom had grabbed her phone and read it all in the text messages. It was over the phone and not at all via text messages. When I pointed out there were no texts, she just kind of stumbled and I dropped it because I knew it wouldn't get anywhere. For every time I talk to my mom on the phone, I can hear this woman telling her what to say or adding comments in, and none of it is outwardly worrisome things, but it feels like I can't have any conversation with just my mom. I'm a very trusting person who generally tries to see the best in people, and this woman has not given me any concrete reasons to doubt her intentions, and has in fact been very friendly and polite to me in all of our interactions. Nonetheless, I can't shake this feeling that there's something wrong here. I sat my mom down yesterday and had a conversation with her about my feelings towards this new friend, and she didn't get defensive at all, but disagreed with me and said that her new friend is just being kind and offering to help with stuff because she knows my mom is not the most organized of people and could use the help. I begged my mom to please be cautious and to take the friendship slow and to keep it simply as a friendship and let me, her actual family, handle caretaking stuff. Despite no changes in medications, my mom has been more confused lately and comes across to me like she's overtaking medication, but I only give her 1 dose at a time and the rest is locked up at all times, so it isn't that. But just to be safe, since she's more confused lately, I took my mom's credit and debit cards so no one can take advantage of her financially. Reddit. Please help me figure out what this woman would have to gain in coming between my mom and I if it isn't medication or money. I don't know how to do a background search or if that's legal for any random person to do, but I did look this new friend up on a couple websites, and all I learned from that is that she has a lot of also known as names, but I can't find anything else. I'll pay for a background search if anyone has a recommendation for good ones. We're in California. Does any of this raise any red flags to anyone else? Or am I just being too overprotective of my mom on this? Oh, I almost forgot. I called one of my mom's oldest and closest friends the other day and asked her if she's met this new friend. And if so, what was her impression? She said, "Honestly, I don't know why I feel like this, but, oh, I just get a bad feeling about her. I just feel like she's up to no good." Hearing this made me feel better in that I'm not the only one to pick up on something, but I don't know what, if anything, to do about it all. Update 1. Thank you so much for all of the responses and heartfelt advice. I'm so sorry to have been MIA for so long after I originally posted, but it's just been a lot. I needed to take a beat to take it all in and deal with the punches from real life that kept coming my way. Immediately after I posted last, I went to talk with my mom. I explained my concerns and she agreed to the 2 cameras I put up in her apartment. On moving day, I was out of the apartment for a few minutes taking my kids back to my house when I logged onto the camera app to test out the settings. I overheard my mom and new friend talking about me. It was not very nice and very much seemed like the friend was just teeing things up to come between my mom and I. My mom was playing right into it. The friend, I'll just call her Fran to make it easier, was gone when I got back to the apartment, but I got into it with my mom. I was crying, telling her how hurtful it is to hear my own mother participating in a negative conversation about me after everything I do and have done for her. She cried, I cried, it was awful. But at the end I had at least convinced her that Fran was up to no good. Mom agreed to create some distance between her and Fran, and she immediately told Fran that her behavior towards me was not going to fly any longer and all talk of anything to do with me was off limits. Fran seemed to understand and blamed her behavior towards me on some flimsy excuse that I didn't buy for a second. All was calm for a week or so when one morning I called my mom to check in on her, only to find out she was with Fran out running errands. When I pushed for more information, I uncovered that Fran had taken my mom to the bank so that my mom could obtain a new debit card. Fran very much knew I had taken my mom's debit card with my mom's blessing, because my mom was having episodes of increased confusion and wasn't aware of who or what she was spending money on. Because my mom had forgotten she had given me her previous debit card, that was the final straw for me. That night, I sent Fran the following text message. "Hi Fran. Mom told me about you guys going to the bank today to get a card, and I just wanted to let you know that I know my mom appreciates your friendship, but that I do not appreciate your getting yourself involved in things you have no business being involved in. Mom and I have her finances under control between the 2 of us, and we do not need any assistance getting her squared away. No matter how well-meaning, she's asked me to take her card again, the new one, and has put me as the main account holder so I can be sure she has access to what she needs, but that no one else does. I want to believe you're coming from a sincere place of just wanting to help my mom, but it complicates friendships greatly when you get into financial territory. I handle all of my mom's finances and medical stuff, and it's working for us that way. My mom very much appreciates having you as her friend, but she doesn't need a caretaker. I've got that covered. If you sincerely want to be her friend, you need to take 10 giant steps back and check yourself regarding how you are coming across to me, because from my perspective it very much looks like you are dancing precariously close to the elder abuse line, and I'm sure you wouldn't want me to get the authorities involved here, but that's exactly what will happen if things continue down this path." Fran responded with some BS reply akin to, "Oh my word, I would never take advantage of anyone, and I just wanted to help your mom, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and I think you and I have gotten off on the wrong foot, daughter, which is my fault, but I'd like to start over again. More blah, blah, blah." I never replied to Fran further, and she has shockingly / not really reached out to my mom since. I believe she is due to move into the apartment complex this weekend, though, so we shall see if she pops back up out of the woodwork. I think she understands that I see through her attempts to come between my mom and I, and that she'll need to focus her efforts to scam people somewhere else. I notified my mom's hospice nurses and her social worker as well. I also bought a really super cool medication dispenser. I won't name it because I'm not plugging anything, But feel free to reach out to me if anyone has family members that they need some help managing medications for. It's expensive and probably cost prohibitive for a lot of folks. But it has been a game changer for me to keep my mom's medicine safe and organized. It is locked and syncs up to an app, so I get notified every time it dispenses a medication. That made me feel much better about Fran not having any access whatsoever to my mom's prescriptions. But the trip to the bank showed me exactly what Fran was after. I notified the bank that if Fran is with my mom, they are to contact me immediately. All in all, I think most of you were correct. Fran was using my mom for money, or she was trying to. But luckily I caught it before much damage was done. I think I've made my position on Fran clear to her, which is why she is staying away. I think I still need to contact the independent living facility about my concerns with Fran, because I swear I'm not making this up. My mom says that Fran is going to be working at the independent living facility after she moves out, and I don't want her being in a position to take advantage of anyone else. Thank you again to everyone who replied and reached out to me with resources and/or advice. I read every reply, and I actually read a number of them to my mom as well. It really helped her to see Fran for who she really is. Update to September 30th, 2024. Thank you to those who keep checking in with me, asking how my mom is doing and if there's any updates. My mom is still on hospice and doing okay, all things considered. She has her good and her bad days, but she has been mostly lucid lately, and I'm grateful for that. Fran has been mostly MIA, thank goodness, ever since I told her in no uncertain terms to beat it. The only time I have heard from her since was when my mom's phone wasn't working and Fran called me and left a message wanting to know if my mom was okay. I left her on read, so that told me that my mom hasn't cut her out completely, although she tells me she has. But I have, with my mom's blessing, taken control of any avenue Fran could possibly use to take advantage of my mother. I alerted the hospice nurses and social worker, and I let Fran know that I had done that as well. My mom also finally made some better friends who live nearby, and they also help keep an eye on her for me. I did not go to the police as I didn't feel I had a case to do so, but I did let Fran know I wouldn't hesitate to do so if given reason. If Fran comes back around my mom or gives me any reason to think something is up, I'll update you all to let you know. But as of now, my mom is safe. I handle all her medication as well as her finances, so no one can weasel their way in to try to take anything at all away from my mom. Thank you to everyone for your care and concern. Comments where OP has replied. Comment: they want her pills. OP: I thought the same thing, which is why I locked them up tight. My mom agreed to a camera right over her dispenser so we can keep eyes on her medications at all times. The machine I got her is pretty cool too and alerts me via text if the machine door is ever opened. Not that it could be, because it has a passcode on it that even my mom doesn't know. So there's lots of safeguards in place to ensure no one gets into any of her stuff at all. Dad refused to give his blessing and handed my fiancé 2 rejections, then cut contact. Now he says he'll only come to my wedding if I don't let my stepdad walk me down the aisle. I, 23F, got engaged a few months ago to my fiancé, 21M. We're over the moon, but my dad refused to give his blessing, and now he's not only boycotting my wedding but also cutting off all contact with me. The worst part? He's taking his whole side of the family with him. I'm starting to wonder if I'm the bad guy here. Let me explain. I've never been super close with my dad. My parents divorced when I was a baby, and I barely remember them being together. My mom remarried when I was 4, and my stepdad has been a solid father figure ever since. My mom had 80% custody, so I grew up mostly with her, my stepdad, and my brother. We all got along great. As for my dad, we had a decent relationship, but it wasn't deep. He lived 2 minutes away from my mom's house, and I saw him once a week and every other weekend. When I turned 18, I stopped visiting as much, but we'd still have dinner together occasionally, maybe once or twice a month. The issue, my fiancé, let's call him Arch, and I started dating when I was 22 and he was 20. We met at a youth group and quickly became best friends. I know it seems fast to some, but when you know. I can't imagine my life without him. Before proposing, Arch wanted to ask for blessings from both my mom and stepdad, as well as my dad. My mom and stepdad were thrilled and gave their blessings immediately. My dad, however, wasn't as cooperative. He dodged Arch for weeks despite being retired and having plenty of free time. When they finally met, My dad came prepared with 2 printed letters, one for Arch and one for me, stating that he would not give his blessing. He didn't even let Arch ask the question before handing over the letters. He also scoffed at the fact that Arch asked for my stepdad's blessing, calling it ridiculous. Arch defended my stepdad, but the damage was done. He came home upset, and after some prying, he told me what happened. I was hurt and felt disrespected, especially with how he dismissed my stepdad's role in my life. After cooling off for a few days, I met my dad at a park to talk things out. It didn't go well. My dad told me he wasn't coming to the wedding and neither was his side of the family. I asked him directly, "If I get engaged, you won't come to the wedding?" He flat out said no. I then asked, "If I go through with this, are you saying you want nothing to do with me?" His response, "No sweat off my back." That's when I lost my composure. I was holding it together until that point, but his indifference hurt me deeply. He insisted we needed to wait 2 more years to get engaged and maybe then he'd reconsider. He ended the conversation by saying he wouldn't pay for the wedding or be involved in any way. A few days later, Arch proposed. It was perfect. Our families, minus my dad and his fiancée, were there and it was a magical night. We posted about it on social media, and while we were showered with congratulations from friends and family, there was complete radio silence from my dad's side. I started second-guessing myself. Maybe I had been too hasty? Maybe I was in the wrong? So I reached out to him. I texted a heartfelt message telling him I wanted him at my wedding, that he's my dad and I wanted him to walk me down the aisle. His response? He asked for my email. Confused, I gave it to him. A few hours later, I received a long, emotionally charged email. He accused me of disrespecting him and ruining what should have been a special time between a father and daughter. He said Arch and I were responsible for the destruction of our relationship and that it would take enormous effort to repair things. His final words were, "But you got exactly what you wanted. My mom, stepdad, and Arch's family are all supporting us. My mom and stepdad have offered to pay for the wedding since my dad backed out. Wedding planning has been fun, but this whole situation has me questioning whether I really am in the wrong. So, Reddit, AITA for moving forward with my engagement and wedding plans despite my dad not giving his blessing? Edit 1. Editing because there has been a few comments regarding this. Money is not an issue for him or his side of the family, so the waiting 2 years has nothing to do with saving, and he is not trying to get out of paying for the wedding. He is retired and has been for quite some time. Edit 2. I can't reply to all the comments mentioning this, so I will write it here. I wanted my fiancé to ask my parents out of respect, I guess. I always thought it was a sweet gesture, but we viewed it as a way to include them in this next stage of life rather than viewing it as asking permission for him to marry me. I'm not sure how to properly articulate it though, sorry. And as for my mom and his relationship, they were always very civil, and I'd go as far as to say they were friends my whole life. There was never any fights in front of me and my brother at least, and my mom and stepdad would invite him and his fiancée to parties we would have. I'm not 100% sure the reason for their divorce though. I can speculate. It just wasn't something we talked about. And I will add that they chose the custody themselves and did not have a court battle. As I've seen a few comments say, there was never a fight for custody. He chose to move out and live 2 minutes away. My mom did not want his money, that was also never a fight. She just wanted to spend Christmas with us and stay in the house. Comments where OP has replied. Commenter 1, info. Did your mother and father marry young? OP, not super young, no, but they did marry pretty fast. However, my mom remarried her now husband after 11 months and they've been together since I was 4. I did bring this up to him during our long talk to see if that was his reasoning, and he said it's not really about that. OP. On if her father's fiancé might be the reason for the disagreement. It's possible, but I'm not sure why. Her and I had a great relationship before all of this. Not super close, but always looked forward to seeing one another. I have not heard from her since any of this. OP. On what the possible problem was that her father was not sharing with her. I ask myself the same. I think part of it is that he asked my stepdad and mom for their blessings first, and I think he thinks we're too young. I have talked to my fiancé, my mom, his parents, and some people in our lives who would be considered mentors to us. We do couples counseling to ensure we are making the right decisions, and it helps us to have a healthy marriage and relationship. Commenter. Has OP been that closer to her father? OP. Well, yes, we are not close, but I have always respected and valued him as my father. So I've always wanted him and my stepdad to walk me down the aisle and have a father-daughter dance with both of them. I am more confused with his response to all of this. Update September 28, 2024. This whole thing went down about 4 months ago, and I hadn't spoken to my dad since. Until a few days ago. He texted me, which I didn't notice right away since I've had his notification silenced. When I finally saw it, I was walking out of work and literally dropped everything. RIP to my Celsius and the lip liner that rolled out of my bag. You will be missed. His message read, I am texting you because we need to have a conversation. I debated whether to even respond, but my peace of mind, and let's be honest, my anxiety, got the better of me. I texted back, I'm open to having a conversation with the intention of moving forward, not rehashing the past. We scheduled a call for the next day. Fast forward to the call. He starts by saying he loves me and that hasn't changed. Then, almost immediately, he switches to how upset and disappointed he is that he had to reach out first. What? He then asked if we've set a wedding date. I told him it's late next year, hoping maybe he'd changed his mind. But nope. He followed it up with, do you have a venue? I said yes. His response, so, this is happening. Well, I'm not telling anyone in the family not to go. That's their choice. There aren't sides. I tried to explain that there are sides because no one in the family knows my side of things. I'm not super close with that side of the family, except for my grandma who made it clear she's on his side. He cut me off saying he didn't want to be on the phone long and that's all he had to say. I asked if I could ask a question before he hung up and he agreed. So I asked, do you stand by your decision not to come? His answer, it depends on how I'm treated. At this point, I'm floored. I asked him to elaborate because I've never been disrespectful to him, and then it all came out. He feels like he deserves the title of father of the bride and thinks it's completely disrespectful to him if I let both him and my stepdad walk me down the aisle. He went on to double down and say that my stepdad should never have been asked because it wasn't his blessing to give and he's my biological father. He would only consider coming to the wedding if he's treated with the respect he deserves by having the sole title of father of the bride. And then the kicker. He told me that my mom needed to call him to talk about all of this. Okay. Well, my mom is having none of that. She's refusing to call him, rightfully so, and is protecting her peace as she should. If he wants to talk to her, he can pick up the phone and let her know that himself. I'm still reeling. Originally, I was fully planning on sending him an invite, but now I don't even know what to say. The whole thing feels so messed up. My fiancé's parents are upset, and so are my mom and stepdad. I'm honestly at a loss. I didn't expect to be giving an update this soon or at all, but here we are. I haven't spoken to him since that call, and I'm thinking about writing a letter to him. I want to take a few days to calm down first though, before I decide anything. If I do send something, I'll update again. For now, this is where things stand. Now on to the next story. Story 5. Ex-wife lied about an emergency to party with her friends, leaving our kids alone at my front door, so I filed for full custody and everyone is cutting her off. My ex-wife, referring to her as Carol, 36F, and I, 37M, got divorced about 2 years ago. We were together for almost 12 years, married for 10, and we also have 2 kids, a 7-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. Right now, we are about to get caught in a custody battle because I'm fighting for the full custody of both my kids. There have been a lot of reasons, but the most major incident took place recently that made me realize that I cannot trust her. Not even a little bit. Anymore. So, what happened was that I was on my way to a work event, and it was her turn to have the kids according to our custody arrangement. We have shared custody, so the kids live with her for half of the month and spend the other half with me. In case we have to go out somewhere and our sitters are busy, we just ask each other to look after the kids if we are busy. But last Friday, she knew that I had a work event hosted by my boss, and I absolutely had to attend. So, I told her that I wouldn't be able to look after the kids in case she had to go out that day. She had agreed at the time, but then on the day of the event, she started calling me while I was driving. I ignored it for a while, but then I realized that she was calling me nonstop, so I had to pull over and speak to her on the phone. And that's when she told me that she was standing in front of my house with the kids because she had an emergency to attend to, and she couldn't take the kids with her. She wanted me to come back and look after the kids because her sitter was unreachable. That was not going to be possible for me because I had had somewhere to be, and she had known it. So, she just couldn't suddenly tell me that she needed to be somewhere as well and expect me to deal with it. But even while I was arguing with her, she just hung up and told me to come back home and look after the kids because she couldn't waste time arguing with me. She had to leave and attend to the emergency that she had been called for earlier. I tried calling her back several times, but she just ignored it, and with no other option left, I had to turn back home so I could be with the kids because they have never been left home alone, and I wasn't going to start now when they were so young. It was really annoying as it is, but when I got home and saw that my kids were just standing outside our door looking lost, it really hit a nerve. The least that she could have done was at least wait for me to come back home with them and not leave them alone. So I was really upset about that. When I asked my kids when their mother had left them, they told me that she had told them to wait outside until I came back home right after she hung up the phone call with me, and since then they had been waiting alone. I was appalled that she would do something like this because the one thing that we could agree on was that both of us cared deeply for our kids, but I guess I was wrong. Once I had come back home, the kids and I went inside and they started doing their own thing. I had to inform some coworkers about why I was absent from the event, so that's what I did, and I felt really upset that I was missing a significant work event because my wife couldn't be bothered to plan out her weeks. And it wasn't even like last Friday was the first time that something like this had happened. It had started happening quite frequently since the last couple of months, but it hadn't yet become a problem for me. She would just randomly pop up even when it was her turn to have the kids and tell me that I needed to look after them because she had somewhere to be. It was mostly just her hanging out with her friends, which really annoyed me because I couldn't see a reason why she had to make impromptu plans and couldn't just keep me informed from the beginning, since it would make things easier for me. I had even spoken to her about it several times, but she just couldn't be bothered to care about anybody else but herself. She had a babysitter, and in spite of that, she would frequently rely on me to take care of the kids even when it was not my turn with them. Don't get me wrong, I love the kids and I love spending time with them, but it was just very inconvenient for her to randomly drop them off because it messed with my routine. If I was going to have to take care of them all the time, I would just rather have them live with me full-time instead of spending half the month with her, and then at least these things wouldn't come as a surprise. I had just given up on her, and then last Friday happened, and it was probably the first time that I ended up missing something important just because she was not a good planner. I was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt because I thought that last Friday, it wasn't because of her impulsive nature that she had to drop the kids my place all of a sudden, but because of some genuine emergency. And after thinking about it for a while, I was willing to forgive her for that. But later on in the evening, while scrolling through Facebook, I saw this one post from her that changed absolutely everything. I guess she had forgotten to hide it from me or something, or maybe she just didn't care that I was going to see it. Either way, I saw that post. It was a picture of her and a bunch of her friends at the club, and one of them was hugging their partner and sporting a diamond ring on their finger in the camera. So, I was pretty sure that they were celebrating their engagement, which was all great and stuff, but definitely not an emergency that Carol absolutely had to be there for. And she knew that if she had told me the truth, I wouldn't have agreed to come back home and she would have had to take care of the kids. So, she decided to lie to me and tell me that it was an emergency just so I would miss my work event and she would be able to go clubbing with her friends to celebrate an engagement. It was just so unfair, and I had already been thinking about how this had become a thing with her in recent times, so I decided to do something about it. I called up my sitter and had her come over within 15 minutes because luckily she wasn't exactly busy, and I even offered her extra money since I was having her show up so unexpectedly. Anyway, after she was here, I decided to drive to the club that Carol was in so I could give her a little surprise. It was just a couple of minutes away, so I reached there pretty quickly and I got lucky because even in that crowd, I was able to spot her and her group of friends within the first few seconds. Then I walked over to them, and that was finally when Carol spotted me. All of them were drinking but hadn't gotten drunk yet, so I knew that people would remember this for sure. Carol looked really nervous when she saw me and she tried to smile and stuff and tell me that she knew that what she had done was not right, but she just needed a way to get me to come back home since she really wanted to be there for her friends, and she hoped that I would understand. But I didn't care about any of that. I just turned to her friends and told them that it was really nice of them to invite her along, and it was great that she had formed such a strong bond with them that she was ready to give up time with her kids to be with them, since that's exactly what had been happening for the past couple of months. Ever since she started working at this new company with new work, she had new friends, and her company had changed her because now her priorities in life were different. For context, all these women that she has been hanging out with recently just after she quit her old job and started at this new company are all under 30, and obviously they don't have the same kind of lifestyle that she does, and I guess she has forgotten about that. Anyway, I then went on to tell her friends that not only had she been spending less time with our kids, but that day she had actually lied to me and told me that she had to attend to an emergency just so she could spend time with them. She had dropped the kids at my house and not even bothered to wait with them for me to come back home because she was so eager to be with these women, even though they were pretty young, and I'm just glad that we live in a nice neighborhood because otherwise there's no telling what might have happened with them. I congratulated them on becoming the most important thing in her life, and I could see that all of them were looking really uncomfortable because presumably none of them had any idea about any of this. Carol didn't even say anything. She just hung her head in shame and continued to look down. After I was done venting, I got back into my car and drove back home. Once I was home, I felt slightly better, and I started thinking about filing for full custody. But before doing so, I decided to talk to my kids, and I'm very lucky that I did because if I hadn't done so, I wouldn't have found out exactly how they had been treated at their mother's house in the past couple of months. When I asked my kids, really casually however, if they had been living with their mother for the past couple of months and if they actually enjoyed spending time with her so I would get to know how they felt about it. And if they had positive feelings about their mother, I wouldn't file for full custody. However, to my surprise, my kids told me that it didn't make much of a difference when they were living with their mother because she was hardly ever around. In fact, the way they made it sound, it felt like they spent more time with their babysitter rather than their own mother. She was always out either for work or just to meet her friends, and most of the time it was their sitter who would stay with them. She was a student, so on the days that she wouldn't be able to make it, Carol would drop them off at my place, which I already was aware of. So, according to my children, they hardly even got to see their mother after she had started working at that new place and had found new friends for herself. The entire point of having shared custody is so that she gets to spend time with our kids, but if she wasn't interested in doing so, I think full custody would be the way to go because it would be convenient for all of us. I was already pretty upset with her, and after speaking to my kids, I made up my mind that I was going to file for full custody. So, I contacted my lawyer that night itself, and in a couple of days we filed the petition. Yesterday she was served, and for some reason she was shocked. She really should have seen this coming because after I showed up at the club to expose her to all her friends, she hadn't bothered to reach out to me at all. The only thing that she had done was remove me from all her social media, which didn't make a difference because I was already aware of what she was up to. But there had been absolutely no apology, and even though it was her turn to have the kids with her, she hadn't shown up to take them with her either. It was very obvious that she couldn't care less, and so I didn't think that she had any reason to feel shocked that I had decided to file for full custody of our children. However, after she was served, she decided to finally call me and started bickering with me. She told me that she had just decided to take some time away from us to cool down after what had happened at the club the other night, which was really stupid of her to say because of everything that happened. She somehow felt that she was the one who needed to cool down because she was the one who deserved to feel angry. But anyway, she believed that just because she had taken some time out for herself, she didn't deserve this and I had no right to file for full custody. It was then that I went on to tell her that I had spoken to the kids and I knew that she had hardly been spending any time with them. I was also aware of the fact that her priorities had changed, and I don't know if she was having a midlife crisis or something, but I couldn't let our kids suffer because of her. What had happened recently was the final nail in the coffin for me, and now I was going to make sure that I got the kids to stay with me, and if she was lucky, she might get visitation rights. When she realized that I had spoken to the kids and I knew that she had hardly been at home with them for the past couple of months, I guess she realized that she was done for and she wouldn't pretend to be the one in distress anymore. She immediately switched her attitude towards me, and instead of bickering and sounding off, she started trying to reason with me, and her tone was very different after that. She told me that she was really sorry that she hadn't been spending enough time with the kids, but she just wanted to have some fun before she got old. When she started working at this new company, she met all these wonderful young women and got a bit carried away, which meant that she kind of forgot that they did not have the same kind of responsibilities for kids and families as she did. But now, this recent incident had been a wake-up call for her, and she had decided that she was going to try and get better so she could be a better parent to our children. And I told her that was good for her, that she definitely should try to be with her parents, but until then, I would like to have them with me and get full custody because clearly, she was not going to be able to devote the same kind of time to them like I was. And not only was it inconvenient for me, I don't think the kids were enjoying themselves either. So, I told her that while she tried to go back to her old ways, it would be for the best for us to stick to a full custody arrangement with me. If she wanted, she could have visitation rights, but that was about it. I wasn't going to trust her anymore after this. At that point, when she realized that trying to reason with me was not going to work because I had made up my mind, she started crying and told me that this was happening all at once and it was quite unfair. Apparently, after I had shown up at the club the other day and told all her friends about how she had lied about having an emergency just so she could party with them and had even left the kids alone in front of my house. Since then her friends have been very distant from her, and some of them have even stopped speaking to her because they could not be on board with this kind of behavior. They had started to think of her quite differently, and well, rightfully so. What she had done was quite messed up, so I don't blame them, especially because I keep saying again and again that Carol is much older than them because I don't think any of them are even over 30, and she has responsibilities of her own that she can't just shirk off so she can have fun. She told me that it was kind of my fault because even if I was mad at her, I should have at least waited until the next day to confront her about it and let off some steam. Now, on top of that, I had also filed for full custody and it was just too much to handle for her. She felt like I was punishing her too much for just one tiny mistake. And it wasn't fair at all because not only had she kind of lost her friends, but she was also at risk of losing custody of children now. She told me that I needed to think about her situation right now and at least try to be a little kind to her. Apparently, she thinks that she has already learned her lesson and she's not going to repeat this kind of behavior, so I need to give her a second chance. But honestly, I don't think that I can take a chance with my kids. So, I had to tell her that I had already made up my mind and I wasn't going to change it. It was not easy for me either because I knew that custody matters are particularly difficult for the kids and they had already been through our divorce, so I didn't want to put them through something like that again. But for their own good, I had to. I tried to break it to her gently when I realized that she had started crying on the phone. But even then, she refused to listen to me and then she started throwing a tantrum on the phone. She started screaming at me, saying that I was ruining her life and that I couldn't punish her so hard just for wanting to have some fun. All she wanted to do was feel young again, and that's why she had gotten a bit carried away, and she admitted that it was not a good thing to do, that she had made a mistake, but she definitely deserved one more chance. I felt like she was being childish, so I hung up. But then she started texting me and telling me that she was really sorry about everything and that she really would try to get better now. She was not even going to be in touch with her friends anymore, so she would definitely be spending more time with the kids and would never abandon them the way she did again. Since yesterday, she has kept sending me messages periodically, and it's making me feel really bad about what I'm doing because I know it's probably good for the kids and more convenient for me. But now that I think of it, I don't know if it's a good idea to take them away from their mother for something like this. I do agree that Carol messed up, but as parents, don't we all mess up sometimes? The only question is if her mistake was worth forgiving or not, or if there's a chance of it ever happening again. If I'm being honest, I'm very confused, and even though I've spoken to my lawyer and my parents about this, I don't know how to feel. I just have no idea what to do, and my only intention here is to do what is best for the kids, but I don't even know what exactly that is right now. So, I'm here to ask for advice from you guys. Idea for filing for full custody of my kids after my ex-wife lied about having an emergency so she wouldn't have to look after them one evening. Edit. Hey guys, there has been a lot of speculation about why exactly my wife and I got divorced and well, it's not what you guys think. No, neither of us was having affairs. It was honestly just because we fell out of love after we had our second child, our son. We kind of started drifting apart. When we realized it, we tried to make it work with couples counseling and stuff, but even that didn't help much. After some time, we just had to agree that our relationship had run its course, and it was really devastating, but getting divorced was a much better alternative than staying in a loveless marriage and hardly speaking to each other anymore. Our divorce was quite amicable, and I know that in my original post I made it sound like our post has been quite terrible for the kids, but I just meant that in the normal sense. All of a sudden, their parents were separating and their mother was moving out and stuff, so that might have been a bit difficult for them to come to terms with, and that's what I meant when I said that they had already been through something like this, so I didn't want to put them through a custody battle. Also, some of you guys wanted to ask why exactly we did not approach our parents to look after the kids and babysit them when our sitters were not available, especially my ex-wife. So, my parents live in the suburbs, which is quite far away, and I hardly ever ask them to babysit the kids because it's not very convenient for either of us. And as for Carol's parents, they live out of state, so asking them for anything is out of the question. People were also asking whether Carol had been having some sort of affair or not, and honestly, I don't know. I haven't been seeing anybody seriously ever since the divorce happened, and even though I've been out on a couple of dates since the divorce, it's been nothing serious. As for Carol, I know that she has been seeing other people, but I don't know if she has found someone who is dating. If she has, she hasn't let me know and she kept it a secret. But now that the petition for full custody has already been filed, I don't think she's going to come clean about any sort of relationship she has because clearly her friendships and relationships have negatively impacted their relationship with her children, so it's definitely going to come into play in the custody battle if I decide to go through with that. At the moment, I still have no idea what I'm going to do because my friends and my family are kind of divided on what I should do next, but I'm still holding out on a judgment from you guys. Update 1. Hey, thank you so much for all the comments, and I have finally made up my mind about what I want to do. So, I'm going to go ahead with demanding full custody because no matter how much she apologizes, she's not going to be able to take back what she did. She's not going to be able to win back my trust until she proves that she's capable of handling raising our kids. I have also had to sacrifice a lot of fun times with my friends for the sake of our kids, and I would never feel any sort of regret for it. If given the choice to do so again, I would choose my kids in a heartbeat, and it's very worrying that I am not sure if she would do the same. How can I have shared custody of our kids with her if I'm not sure of it because that's what parenting means, making sacrifices when you need to, and if she doesn't understand that, I don't think it's the right time for her to be a parent to our kids right now. Besides, I just can't get that one incident out of my head because she literally left our kids alone standing at my doorstep so she could frolic with her friends. I mean, that's completely unacceptable, and I cannot think of any parent in their right mind who would be fine with something like that. It's been 3 days since I last spoke to her on the phone, and today I decided to finally respond to all the messages that she had been sending me relentlessly. And I told her that I'm really sorry about everything, but I'm not going to be changing my mind about demanding full custody of the kids. And I think it's very unfair to try and blame me for this situation because if anything, she was the one who created it. Now she's going to have to suffer the consequences of her actions. It's pretty simple, and there's no reason for her to be so stressed out if she doesn't think she hasn't done anything wrong because I'm sure that if the matter goes to family court, the judge is obviously going to decide what is best for the kids. So, ultimately what really matters is what the law thinks and not what she or I think. Update 2. I had sent Carol a message telling her that I was going to stick to my decision of demanding full custody a couple of hours ago, and just a few minutes back, she replied to it saying that she had spoken to her lawyer as well and she was ready to fight in court. She also said a couple of things about how she had realized that just because she was a woman, she was not allowed to have any fun and how mothers all around the world have had to sacrifice so much while fathers get to do whatever they want. And that might be true for other cases. I don't think that's true for our situation since I have sacrificed just as much as she has, and I'm not some absentee father who doesn't care about our kids. So, I don't understand why she was trying to play the victim card and completely dodge any sort of accountability because she thinks she can justify her midlife crisis and incessant need to be liked by everyone around her by trying to throw me under the bus for things I haven't even done. For instance, I have never abandoned my kids so I can go party with my friends, but she has. So, I think she should read her own message and apply it to herself. But whatever, it doesn't even matter because we're going to see each other in court and make sure that we deal with this. Update 3. Hey guys, so it has been a couple of months since I logged in here, but now that I have, let me give you guys a couple of overdue updates. First thing first, I managed to get full custody of my kids and Carol does have visitation rights, but so far, she hasn't used them. It makes sense because she got completely annihilated in family court because our kids had a lot more to add. Apparently, not only did she not spend time with them, but she had also scared them into not speaking a word of it to me when they went back to me for the rest of the month. Not just once or twice, this has been happening ever since she joined her new workplace, and our kids had been scared to bring it up with me because they were scared of the consequences that they would have to face with their mother. But when I started insisting that they tell me everything, these things finally started coming out, and people hadn't been wrong about her having an affair. But I guess it was worse in her case because it wasn't just one man, it was multiple men. I was right about her having some sort of midlife crisis, which is why she was going out every night with her friends, and my kids told me that they had occasionally seen her come back home really drunk with some guy with her. On those days, the sitter would get them to bed early as soon as their mom came back home, but they had already seen whatever they had to see. The things that we found out about Carol, it was just very disturbing, and it was quite an easy decision for the judge to make that it was going to be better for the kids to stay with me until Carol got her life back in order. After the verdict, Carol quit her job and skipped town, and from what I know, she has gone back to live with her parents. Ever since the proceedings even started, the kids have been living with me and they seem happy enough. They do ask about their mother occasionally, but let go soon enough. We are happy together, and I'm very glad that I decided to file for full custody. No regrets. Now on to the next story. Story 6. I discovered that my stepdaughter had been manipulated by her biological father into investing her tuition money in a fake startup project. "Why don't you just disappear?" my stepdaughter said during a fight. Her mother joined in. "We'd be better off without you." I didn't say anything. I had just packed my suitcases this morning. My phone exploded with 13 missed calls. Something seemed strange. When I strolled into our living room, the house was abnormally silent. But that wasn't all. My gaze swept over the room, attempting to determine what was wrong. Then it struck me, all of our family photos looked different. I took a step closer to the enormous frame above the fireplace, which was from our trip to Yellowstone last year. The photo was present, but I wasn't. Every photo of me had been painstakingly erased, creating embarrassing gaps in family memories spanning the previous 3 years. I was standing there, my coffee cup becoming cold, when I heard Stella's upstairs door softly close. My stepdaughter's footsteps stopped at the top of the stairs. She had obviously seen I was awake. After a brief pause, she walked down, phone in hand, purposefully avoiding eye contact as she headed toward the kitchen. "Morning," I said, my tone calm. The hush that followed was thick with intention. 3 years. That was how long I'd been in Stella's life. 3 years of gradually establishing trust, of movie nights and math homework assistance, of attempting to be present without going too far. At the age of 16, she began to drift away. I expected ordinary teenage rebellion, but this seemed different. It began last week when I offered to assist her with her chemistry project. She'd been grappling with the subject, and I figured it didn't matter what I thought. Her remark was like a slap. "Stop pretending you care about my grades. You're not my real dad." I'd heard variants of that before, but something about her tone was different, sharp and intentional. My wife, Delilah, was in the kitchen and must have heard, but she did not say anything. That quiet felt like taking sides. The tension grew over the week. Small things. Dishes left in the sink with pointed looks, doors closing a little too harshly. Conversations halted when I entered the rooms. Delilah also became distant, avoiding my attempts to clarify what was going on. "She's just being a teenager, Thomas. Don't make it about you." But everything burst last night. Stella was texting during supper, which goes against our customary norms. When I gently reminded her, she threw down her phone. "God, why are you always policing everything I do? Why can't you just leave me alone?" "Stella," I said, "I'm just trying to." "To what? Play dad? I already have one." She stood up, the chair scratching against the floor. "Why don't you just disappear? Nobody asked you to try so hard. It's pathetic." I looked at Delilah, not sure what I was expecting. Support? Mediation? Instead, she placed her fork down and calmly murmured, "Maybe we'd all be better off if you did." The words hung in the air like smoke. 3 years of memories flew through my mind. The day Stella first laughed at one of my dad jokes, the night she called me in tears after her first boyfriend broke up with her, and Delilah's proud smile when Stella requested me, not her mother, to help her pick out her prom outfit. I stood up slowly, my food half finished. "Okay," I replied simply. "Okay what?" Stella demanded. But something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps. "If that's how you both feel, okay?" I strolled upstairs to our bedroom and took out my old duffel bag. I could hear them whispering downstairs, but no one came up while I gathered enough clothes for a few days. I saw that my hands were not shaking. I felt strangely relaxed. Stella had already left, most likely to her room, when I arrived. Delilah stood at the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. "So, you're just leaving? That's your solution? You said you'd be better off," I responded, looking for my keys and wallet. "I'm respecting that. That's not. I didn't mean." She paused. Pride? Wrath? Or something else kept her from saying what she wanted to say. I took up my purse. "I'll be at Ryan's. I'll figure out something more permanent soon." I hesitated at the doorway. You know, when Stella said those things before, it hurt. But hearing you agree, that broke something, Del. I drove to Ryan's apartment in solitude. He looked at me and immediately set up his guest room. That's the type of friend he is. I turned off my phone and took a sleeping pill from my emergency travel box. This morning, I awoke to find sunlight flowing through unfamiliar drapes. When I eventually turned on my phone, it was filled with notifications. 13 missed calls. 8 from Delilah, 3 from Stella, and 2 from Quinn, my sister. 27 text messages. For voicemails, I have not listened to any of them yet. I'm sitting in Ryan's guest room, watching the morning traffic below, and thinking about the empty places in our family portraits. Maybe they were always there, but I didn't want to see them. My phone vibrates again. It's Stella. After everything that has transpired, I find myself staring at her name on the screen, wondering what is so necessary right now. But I am not ready, not yet. Walking away isn't always the hardest part. It's deciding whether to walk back. Update 1. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who left positive comments on my previous post. I did not expect such a large response. To answer the most common questions. Yes, I have read the messages. No, I have not responded to any of them yet. And yes, I am still at Ryan's. This morning began like the others. Me pretending to focus on work while glancing at my phone, debating if I should break the stillness. Then Ryan dropped a bomb during breakfast. "Miles is back in town," he announced, sliding his phone across the table. On Facebook, there was a photo of Stella's biological father, posted at a local restaurant 2 weeks ago. The same Miles who hasn't paid child support for 3 years. The same Miles who had missed Stella's last 4 birthdays. Suddenly, everything made sense. I scrolled through my messages again. Delilah's communications have evolved from angry, "Thomas," instead of talking, "Run away," to the concerned, "Please let us know you're fine," to something more complicated. Her most recent read, "There's something you need to know. It's Stella. Please call." Quinn arrived about lunchtime, ready with coffee and that non-nonsense expression she gives when she's about to meddle in my affairs. "You look like hell," she said, sliding into Ryan's couch. "Thanks. Always good to see you too, sis." She did not smile. "I ran into Stella at the mall yesterday. That caught my interest." "How is she?" "Meeting Miles for coffee." "She didn't see me," Quinn said, observing my reaction closely. She looked hopeful. You know that look she gets? Like when she's trying not to get too excited about something. I understood exactly what she meant. It's the same expression Stella had when she was accepted to the summer camp last year. As if she was terrified to believe something good was happening. "Did you know he's been messaging her for months?" Quinn asked, promising to make things right this time. My stomach turned. I checked Stella's Instagram, which I rarely do. Her most recent post was a snapshot of her and Miles. Caption, "Real family time." Her friends' replies were loaded with heart emoticons, and none of them were aware of the background. Ryan, who had been quietly listening, eventually piped up, "Remember what happened last time he showed up?" Stella was 13. I remembered. Miles had arrived with huge promises, stayed for 2 weeks, and then vanished again. Stella remained in bed for several days afterward. Delilah and I spent months regaining her trust and assuring her that she was enough, that she deserved more. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text message from Delilah. "He's asking her to move in with him. She's actually considering it. Please, Thomas, I know you're angry with me, but she needs you. I began typing multiple responses. I deleted them all. What could I possibly say? Sorry, you told me to disappear, but now you need me to reappear? The entire event seemed like a terrible joke. Then followed another notification. Stella's latest Instagram post. A photo of college brochures scattered across her bed. The headline reads, "Big change is coming. Sometimes you have to choose your real path." Miles said those precise words 3 years ago, right before he traveled across the country to pursue his true passion and stopped returning Stella's calls. Quinn must have noticed something on my face. "What are you thinking?" I glanced at my phone, rereading Delilah's message. Then I quietly said, "I'm thinking about the day I married Delilah. Remember what Stella said in her speech? How sometimes family finds you when you're not looking for it." Quinn nodded. "And now," I sighed. "Now she's posting about her real family and her real path while Miles plays Father of the Year. He's got her convinced." My phone began to ring and I came to a stop. Unknown number. "Thomas, this is Miss Anderson from Riverside High. I'm Stella's guidance counselor. I know this is unusual, but I need to speak with you about some concerning changes in Stella's academic plans and recent behavior. Would you be able to come in tomorrow morning?" I consented to the meeting, my thoughts racing. Stella had maintained straight A's since freshman year, anxious to attend a good institution. What might have changed? Quinn and Ryan both looked at me expectantly as I hung up. "So?" Quinn asked. "I think it's time to stop being silent." I took up my phone and eventually opened Stella's voicemail. Her voice was low, unlike her normal assurance. "I know you probably hate me now, and I get it. I need to tell you something. About why I said those things. About Miles. Just, please call me back." Something in her voice reminded me of the 13-year-old girl who would check the mailbox every day, hoping for a letter that never arrived. "I have a meeting with the guidance counselor tomorrow at 9 o'clock. After that, I believe it is time for some honest conversations. Because disappearing occasionally allows you to view things more clearly from a distance." The school's number is still shown on my screen. Next to it is a text notification from Miles to our family group chat, which I am still a part of. "Great news! Big announcement at dinner tomorrow night. I have a feeling I know what the announcement will be, and I will not let history repeat itself." Update 2. I spent the last hour figuring out how to write this update. The meeting with Miss Anderson showed something I had not expected, and what happened next? Well, let me start at the beginning. I arrived at Riverside High early and observed students rushing to the first period. A couple of Stella's classmates knew me, and their quick glances and murmurs informed me that stories about my absence had already circulated. Miss Anderson did not waste time. After I sat down, "Stella submitted paperwork to withdraw from her advanced placement classes yesterday," she explained, sliding a form across her desk. "She's also dropping out of the French club and student council." When I asked why, she said she's transferring schools next semester. My chest tightened. Stella battled hard to get into these programs. She had been counting on extracurricular activities to help her college applications. "There's more," Miss Anderson added. "Last week, she asked me to send her transcripts to 3 different schools, all in California." She halted and attentively observed me. "The same city where Miles recently purchased property." That's when things started falling into place. I brought out my phone and showed her Miles' huge announcement text. "Let me guess, he's opening a new business out there?" She nodded. Stella mentioned something about a startup. Said her father needs family investors to get it off the ground. The usual nauseous feeling returned, the same one I received 3 years ago when Miles persuaded Delilah to lend him money for a sure-thing business endeavor. We never saw the money again. I left the school and drove directly to our house. Delilah's automobile was in the driveway. I could see her pacing in the kitchen with a phone to her ear. She saw me and ran to answer the door before I could knock. "He asked her for money," she replied promptly. "Her college fund. He's been filling her head with promises about this tech startup, saying that if she invests now, she'll make enough to pay for any college she wants." "Where is she?" "Coffee with Miles again." Delilah's voice broke. I tried telling her it's a scam, But she accused me of being jealous that he's finally stepping up. She said, "At least he believes in her dreams." I sat down at the kitchen counter, the identical location where everything collapsed a week ago. "Why didn't you tell me he was back?" "I tried to handle it myself," she exhaled. "I wondered if I could keep them apart." She shook her head. "Then you and Stella got into an argument, and she said terrible things and I just panicked. I sided with her because I was terrified not to. She'd go all in for him." Before I could react, the front door opened. Stella walked in. She froze when she saw me. She looked different, makeup applied carefully. Stella was dressed in an expensive jacket Miles had most likely purchased for her, but her eyes were crimson. "What are you doing here?" she asked. However, her voice lacked its typical sharpness. "Are you dropping your AP courses?" "Really?" I kept my tone gentle. "What happened to Stanford?" "Plans change," she murmured, avoiding my gaze. "Dad says." "Miles says," I said gently. Something flickered on her face. "He has connections out there. The startup is guaranteed, too." As if the classic car dealership were guaranteed, or a food truck franchise. I took out my laptop and opened the documents that I had spent the morning gathering. I did some digging. Want to know Miles' current company registration status? Or his credit report? Or about the 3 ongoing cases from his previous guaranteed investment opportunity? Stella's hands trembled as she grabbed the laptop. With each click and document, the careful facade cracked a little more. When she reached the lawsuit filed by his prior stepdaughter's grandmother to collect college funds he had borrowed, the first tear flowed. "He said," she swallowed hard, "he said he had changed. He wants to make up for lost time. That we could be a true family? If," she paused and looked up at me, "a photo album. He stated I needed to prove I was choosing him, that you were the reason he remained away. You took his place." "Oh, sweetie." Delilah approached, but Stella stepped back. "I knew," she said quietly. "I guess I knew, but I desperately wanted to believe him." Her phone vibrated. Miles sent another SMS. She stared at it for a long time before shutting it off entirely. "I have to go," she murmured quickly, rushing for the stairs. I need to think." We let her leave. Sometimes the most generous thing you can do is provide space. Hours have passed. Delilah and I truly talked, for the first time in weeks, regarding worries and blunders. About Stella, Miles, about us. Around midnight, I was preparing to return to Ryan's when my phone lit up with a text from Stella. "I messed up. Everything's messed up. Can we talk? Really talk? Not about Miles or money or anything. Just, remember when we used to have ice cream after my dance classes and you'd let me rant about school drama? Could we do that? I know I don't deserve it, but I'm composing this from my car, which is parked outside our local ice cream shop. It's supposedly closed, but the owner recognizes us. We have been coming here for 3 years. He is staying open late just for us. Stella just arrived in her mother's automobile. She's sitting there, probably gathering up the nerve to enter, exactly as I am. Sometimes the most difficult conversations begin with the slightest steps. Or, in this case, mint chocolate chip ice cream at midnight. Update 3. That night in the ice cream shop altered everything. Stella spoke for hours about Miles' manipulation, her anxieties, and guilt. But it was something she said in passing that piqued my interest. Miles had asked Jessica to get her friend's parents to invest in his firm as well. Something clicked. I remembered the lawsuits. I'd discovered a pattern of targeting families through their children. The rage I'd been hiding now had a purpose. "You know," I explained carefully, "what he's doing isn't simply ethically wrong. It is illegal." Stella glanced up from her melting ice cream. "What do you mean?" I described securities fraud and unlawful investment techniques. Her eyes widened as she took out her phone and showed me the group conversations where Miles was directly soliciting investments from children. That night, after sending Stella off, I made some phone calls. Quinn has a friend in the SEC. Ryan knows someone in the district attorney's office. By the morning, I had a plan. Miles didn't see it coming. He was too preoccupied with his big announcement dinner, where he intended to persuade Stella to hand over her education fund. He had also invited the parents of some of her friends, adding to the list of prospective targets. The dinner was held at an expensive restaurant. Miles was in his element, discussing Silicon Valley connections and assured profits. I waited for the appetizers to arrive before rising up. "Before we continue," I said, "there are some people who'd like to join us." On cue, 2 federal agents and a state investigator entered. Miles' face changed from confident to confused to terrified in seconds. Miles was operating more than one fraud, it seems. The detectives discovered 7 different fraudulent schemes in 3 jurisdictions. Every time he reconnected with Stella over the years, he would set up new victims. The classic automobile dealership that cost Delilah her funds was part of a broader scam scheme. The food truck franchise follows the same pattern. But here's the beautiful part. He'd gotten sloppy this time. He had documented everything in texts and emails to Stella, believing she would never turn against him. When she forwarded the messages to the investigators, his fate was sealed. Are the parents present at the dinner? They wore wires. Every promise, lie, and illegal investment pitch was recorded. Miles tried to run, knocking over a waiter before sprinting for the door. He took 3 steps before being stopped by security. As they led him away, he gave Stella that manipulative puppy dog expression that she had fallen for so many times. "This is all a misunderstanding, sweetie. Tell them I am your father." Stella stood up, shoulders straight. "My father's right here," she said, taking my hand. "And he just watched you get exactly what you deserve." The aftermath was intense. News coverage, victim statements. More families are coming forward. The investigators discovered over $2.3 million in stolen funds. Miles estimates 15 to 20 years. His startup consisted solely of a website and some stolen photos of a real tech company's office. But the true victory was not witnessing Miles' arrest. It was the brief moments that followed. Stella placed all of her photos with Miles in a box and donated them to the prosecution. "Evidence," she said with a hint of her old smile. She reapplied to her AP courses. In light of the circumstances, the school was understanding. Instead of being angry, her friends' parents formed a support group for families impacted by similar scams. Something good came from something bad. Stella asked me last night for help with her college essays. "I have a pretty unique story now," she explained. "How many people can write about bringing down their biological father's fraudulent empire? Delilah and I are in counseling. There is trust to rebuild and wounds to heal. But watching her meticulously place my photos back in the family albums and straighten each one, that expressed more than words could." Stella came down early this morning for breakfast. She carried an envelope with her. "I found this in my room," she explained, passing it across the table. "Miles asked me to send it last week. It is investment documentation for his startup. I figured you would want to add it to the evidence file." I stared at the envelope, then at her. "Do you want to deliver it to the investigators together?" She grinned, the genuine, unrestrained smile I had missed. "Can we get ice cream afterwards?" Some may argue that the vengeance was excessively severe. Whatever happens, that family is still family. However, a real family does not strive to take your future. A real family will protect you, even if it means shielding you from other relatives. Miles' sentencing date is next month. Stella plans to read a victim impact statement. She spent weeks working on it, painstakingly rewriting each word. She requested me to review it yesterday. "It needs a good ending," she went on. "Something that shows I'm not just his victim anymore." I believe she's already found that ending. It's in the way she holds her head up right now and how she assists other children in identifying similar schemes. In the college brochures on her desk, her actual route, not the one Miles attempted to sell her. Moving on sometimes entails ensuring that the past does not harm others. And sometimes the finest retribution isn't simply watching someone face consequences. It is thriving despite them. We are having a family meal tonight, only the 3 of us. Stella's making her famous pasta sauce, which she learned while watching cooking videos with me during lockdown. Normal, boring, and wonderful things related to the family. Miles will have plenty of time to ponder about these things from his cell. Now on to the next story. Story 7. I really hate my stepmother, and I don't know how to tell my dad about it without causing a big issue. I'm feeling very stuck right now. Hey, this might be a long one. I'm sorry if it is too long. I didn't read the too long. Didn't read at the bottom. I really don't know what to do about my situation, and I don't have anyone close to give me advice. So I thought here I can maybe get some advice. I have an amazing dad who raised me since my mom passed away when I was 5 years old. He is my friend, my supporter, and someone who I want to be like when I grow up. When my dad first introduced my stepmother to me, I was 10 years old, and she was very nice to me. He looked so happy that we met and hoped we could get along. They got married when I was 13, and I was so happy that my dad and I had a new member in our family. I thought me and stepmother were getting along until, I think, a few months after their honeymoon. She told me one morning that we just need to pretend to like each other around my dad, but when he is not here that I shouldn't bother her. Honestly, this shattered me, but I agreed because I didn't know what else to do. After that day, whenever it was just me and stepmother, she would say things to get to me, and I would just not say anything. I'm introverted and don't like confrontation, so I just took it and thought over time she would get over it, but it got worse. She would talk about my height and weight and say I was a funny-looking version of my dad. I hoped my dad would notice, but he didn't. He actually thinks me and stepmother are so close and she understands me. He looks so happy with her that maybe it's worth not saying anything and giving it time. This year, my stepmother has started picking on me around my dad, and he has either joined in or ignored it. I have voiced that what she says makes me uncomfortable and hurts, but my dad says she is teasing and doesn't mean it to hurt me. Well, right now I'm at my wit's end, and I'm scared. I'm angry, frustrated at my stepmother and my dad. Dad was away for work, and it was just me and stepmother at home. She had a party at home with a couple of her friends. I helped set the house up and cook dinner because Dad asked me to help out, which was fine. After they ate and just hung out, they were hanging out on the porch when I heard stepmother and her friends talking very loudly outside my window while I was in my room. Stepmother's friends talked about how stepmother was lucky to have a nice husband and a house. When they mentioned how nice it was that I cooked for them, stepmother told them that I was annoying and weird and she hated me and living with me and couldn't wait till I was 18 to kick me out. I was shocked that she hated me that much, but I didn't know why. To be honest, I thought we were tolerating each other, but to hate me? I must have done something, but I can't think of what I did. I've been kind of down since that day, which was 2 weeks ago, and I thought I was past the initial feelings, but at rugby training today, I burst into tears, and my coach sent me home. So I drove to a beach and cried. I was feeling so much. I honestly can't describe my emotions. I eventually fell asleep in my car. Now I'm here hoping I can get advice on how to talk to my dad about it, because I'm scared about how he will react. I don't want my dad to be sad, because he does so much for me, but I'm not strong like him. I'm really struggling. My question is, how can I approach this conversation with my dad about my stepmother hating me, or should I tell him at all? Too long. Didn't read. I heard my stepmother tell her friends she hates me, and I wanted to tell my dad about it, but don't know how. Edit. Someone questioned my dad's age, and I'm sorry, but it was supposed to be 42, but I can't change it. Sorry. Thank you everyone that provided advice and kind words. It means a lot to me. I have read every comment and have an idea on how to approach this situation. I'm honestly terrified of the outcome being negative, but the encouragement and support are making this a bit easier to deal with. I am going to talk to my dad on Sunday and show him this post. I hope it goes well, and I hope all of you stay safe and take care. Edit 2. I'm not sure what I am able to do what I planned because Amy just took my car keys away and she wants my phone, but I won't give it to her. So she is waiting for my dad to take it off me because apparently I'm doing drugs. But I told her I'm not. I've been at the beach. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to stop, because I can't handle it. I'm sorry. Yep, date 1. Okay, so my post was locked, but hopefully it's okay now. I've posted the link and tried my best with spacing. I'm on mobile. If I can't post it, I give up. For all the support and advice received, I really appreciate and wholeheartedly so grateful for all who DM'd me to see how I was. Thank you. This will be long because a lot has happened, but many things are still not resolved. Trigger warning. I will mention self-harm, so please, if it might trigger you, please don't read further. I wish I was able to say I followed the advice that was provided and now everything is better, but some things in life don't play the way we want it to, and we can either let it destroy us or make us better. After writing my edit where my stepmother was taking my things away and assuming I was on drugs, I started recording on my phone, and she said a lot through the door. Many things about my mom and me, and just plain hateful words that I don't want to repeat on here. I fell asleep while I was barricading the door with my body when my dad demanded that I open the door. At this point, I don't remember much of what happened, but my stepmother told me I had to leave the house, and my dad agreed. I didn't know who to call, but I decided to call my coach, and he picked me up. I was a crying mess. He didn't ask any questions but just told me that I was safe, and if I needed to talk, he was here for me. I stayed over one night. When Dad picked me up, stepmother was not at home. When we got there, Dad told me we needed to talk. We had breakfast, and my dad spoke to me about many things my stepmother told him, and I couldn't believe all the lies she told him. It was a long talk, but in summary, it was my use of drugs and alcohol, how I disrespect her in our home. I don't do my responsibilities like chores at home. I'm nasty to her when Dad is not around. He asked me why I was acting like this, and if I had a problem with my stepmother, I should have spoken to him. I let him talk, and when he was crying and asked if I had anything to say, I was so lost for words. I knew whatever I said, my dad was on my stepmother's side. So I told him I wanted him to watch the recording of the incident that I can send through as an email attachment and the link to my Reddit post, and then we can talk more. I also said I didn't want to be here when he was reading and watching, so I'll go for a drive, and he can text me when he's done and ready to talk. He was hesitant at first, but I told him it was important to me, so he agreed, and I left in my car to the beach and sent the email with the video attached and the link to my Reddit post. I don't know how long I waited, but many thoughts were going through my head. I was missing my mom so much, and what if my dad still sided with my stepmother? What can I do now? I fell asleep at the beach spot and was woken up by a police officer knocking on my car door and asking for my name. After confirming my name, he advised me to get out of my car and to hand over my keys to him and to follow him to his car. He handcuffed me and assured me that I wasn't in trouble, but this was a welfare check, 'cause someone made a call that I was possibly suicidal. I didn't talk after he told me that, and all I remember was just crying. He made me sit in the back of the police car until the ambulance came, and they took me to the hospital. I was asked many questions and was evaluated and was told I was depressed and may have extreme anxiety. The physician did say I might have other things but will require further testing and some sessions with a psychiatrist. My dad came and visited me while in hospital, and when I saw him, he looked really tired. When he spoke, it sounded like he was crying, and he told me he called the police on me because the video recording I did, he heard everything my stepmother said, but he also saw cuts on my thighs and was scared and thought the worst. Honestly, I never watched the video, so I didn't know my thighs were visible. After our cry, we spoke about a few things. I told my dad that I don't feel comfortable living with stepmother after everything she said and done to me over the years, and I'm not sure I can handle being around her, 'cause I don't trust her. We spoke about arrangements and knowing my dad still loves my stepmother, and I didn't want him to choose between us. I told him that I could talk to Coach if I could stay with him, and after calling him, he agreed. I've also been admitted to an agency that will support me, 'cause I am mentally unwell. I have been to one session and waiting on another evaluation to be done on me and some testings with my general practitioner so they can diagnose me. I'm currently staying with my rugby coach who has been an amazing pillar. He has set out some house rules, but I respect the fella and don't mind following them. My coach even set a date next week for me and Dad to catch up. My coach is an awesome dude. I thought of him as just a coach who just wanted our rugby team to win, but when he allowed me to stay over, he showed so much care for me, and I saw a side to him and understand how much he cares for my team. He has a lovely wife, but I'm kind of anxious whenever it's just me and her at their house. That's it right now. My dad lives at home with my stepmother and is trying to sort that out. I have many appointments to get the help I need and a lot of schoolwork to catch up on and rugby training to attend. I've taken a leave of absence from my McDonald's job. I'm going to the beach for a while, but I understand that it's not a forever thing, so I hope that the next time I go there, I'm not crying my eyes out. I'm kind of working on being okay if my dad and stepmother stay together after those of you who shared your similar experiences. Someday I'll be okay. Thank you to all who advised me and encouraged me, those who reached out through direct message. Thank you for the kind words and reaching out. I'm not sure if I'll update again, but maybe I'll let you know if something happens in the future. Take care, everyone. Also be kind to one another, and most of all be kind to yourself, 'cause you deserve it. Too long. Didn't read. I showed my dad my Reddit post and recording of my stepmother being verbally abusive, and now I'm staying at my coach's house trying to sort out my mental health. Update. Hope everyone has been doing well. I wasn't going to update at all, but many who reached out shared their stories and kind words. Truly helped me. I wish I was able to reply, but so many things were happening, and I'm sorry this will be a long one, but it's because this will be the last time, I hope. In my last post, my coach sorted out time for me and my dad to catch up weekly. I've met up with my dad twice, and this is how it went. First catch up. At the beach. We spoke, and I told him a lot about what happened between me and his wife. I mentioned how she would treat me when he wasn't there, what she spoke to me after they got married, and how she was awful to live with. I told him how I dealt with it for his sake, 'cause I wanted him to be happy. I mentioned to him that I spoke with the coach about staying there until I go to university and then I'll move away, 'cause I cannot live with his wife anymore, 'cause I'm not sure what I'll do. I'm never going to try and get along with her anymore. He listened and was crying and asked if I would ever get over this. I told him no, and I never wanted to see his wife, and walked off, 'cause I was pissed off at what he said, and drove back to the coach's house. He messaged me later I acted like a kid, and I responded 'cause I am a kid. Second catch up. Dinner at the coach's house. Second catch up. My coach invited my dad to have dinner and hang with me. My coach has a pool table in his man cave and a pool. I was excited to hang and catch up with my dad even after our last meetup, 'cause I was feeling a bit better. But at the same time I was feeling anxious about the meetup, like I had a bad gut feeling, but I ignored it. Dinner went great, and me, dad, and coach had fun playing pool. Later on that night, the coach gave us space to talk. Dad talked about my mom and me as a kid, just things he would tell me when I was a kid, and it was just me and him. It was fun, and I really enjoyed our time together. When it was time to go home, I offered to drop him off since he drank, but he said his wife was here to pick him up, so I hugged him and he went. I kind of stayed in the garage and waited for her to leave, so I could walk in the house, but I heard her say, "How's the little?" And I bolted out the door and told her to EFF off. Boy, was I not ready for the slap my dad gave me. But all I remember was swinging a punch at him and knocking him down, and my coach pulling me off my dad. My coach told my dad and his wife to leave. After they left, I told my coach I never wanted to see him again and texted my dad we were done. It doesn't end there. Last week I planned to not go to school on Friday and go for a drive up the line with a few teammates to just get away from everything. They ended up bailing, so I went by myself. I ended up driving to a lake and parking up and just chilling for the school day and just driving back home later on. When I got home at my coach's house, I saw my dad's car parked in the driveway and thought I would have to square up with my dad. When I parked up, my dad ran out the house and looked like he had cried for days. And he started hitting my car, screaming to get out the car and tell him where I was the whole day. I thought he was mad that I wagged school. So he ripped the door open and hugged me so hard and cried. I had no idea what was happening or what he was saying, but all I could understand was, "I'm sorry," and "I love you." After what felt like forever, he kind of calmed me down, and I asked him why he was here, and then he told me there was an accident with a kid getting hit by a train, and it clicked. My dad thought it was me. He said when he heard the news, he called the school, and they said I was a no-show and called everyone he could think of. My mate said I went for a drive somewhere but didn't know where, and my dad said he lost it. He calmed down eventually and said he would divorce his wife if I wanted him to, but I told him he needed to choose that for himself, 'cause the reason I stayed quiet was to make him happy. If he is unhappy, to make a choice for himself, 'cause I don't want to be the reason he is unhappy, and that now I have to look after myself, and that is getting away from her. And he cried and just said more sorries. He ended up sleeping over in the same room as me that night and the night after, 'cause I think he was scared and just trying to deal. I was okay with it, and coach allowed it. He left after the weekend to sort himself out back at his home. I told him that where I am is good for me and to not worry, and that I'll turn off Do Not Disturb on my phone so I could see texts. That's pretty much it, really. I don't know what my dad is going to decide to do with his wife, but I am definitely not ever going to associate with her ever in the foreseeable future. I love my dad too much to stop seeing him, but he knows my boundaries since I've set them out clear as day, and he knows as much as I love him, I will cut him off if I feel like it's not for me. I'm moving past what happened between me and my dad's wife for me, 'cause I'm tired of letting her beat me in my mind, so I just got to work on myself. I'm currently happy staying with my coach and his wife. They have been amazing and have shown me so much love. They have awesome kids who I have met, and they have invited me to their family Christmas. I feel bad that I feel anxious when I'm around the coach's wife, but I'm working on it with my therapist, and I have a good support system. I know I want to go to university, but not sure if I want to study commerce or law, but I know I am on track with my studies. I just can't afford to skip school anymore. Thank you to everyone who sent messages of support and reached out to share your experiences. Y'all gave me the strength to believe I could get out of this mess and be okay. And if you ever feel down, that there is help out there for you no matter where you are in life. I'm glad I shared on Reddit, 'cause I've learned so much about me and many things I won't forget and teach to my kids. Now I got to go school. Take care and cheers. OP posted in r/momforaminute on September 27th, 2022, about turning 18. Can't repost from this sub. I hate that my current reality is that I don't have people I can rely on right now in my life. I am trying to do the best to survive and better my current situation. I've had so much happen to me this year, and I feel like I can't afford to take time for myself to catch a break, or else I'll lose what I currently have, which is not much. I know I'm young and have so much to look forward to, but it's hard, like so hard to want to carry on when so much is going wrong. I'm trying to find a place to stay, even in a flatmate situation, to be more independent, but I can barely afford anything. My job offered me a better paying position at the expense of a full-time job, and even though I would love more money, that means I will have to give up my dream to go to university. I know many people have had worse situations, and honestly, I don't know how they found the will and help they got. It really feels like the world just hates me, and I know I'm feeling sorry for myself, but I honestly am giving up hope. What can I get the family I'm staying with for Christmas? I 18M feel indifferent about catching up with my dad 42 male. I 18 male have a strained relationship with my dad 42 male. A lot has happened this year between us, and it really ruined our relationship. He was my best friend, would be there for my rugby matches and push me to do my best. Earlier this year, I had a fallout with my stepmom and my dad, which caused me to move out of my home and in with my coach 37M, who I call uncle. I have been here ever since. We did try to mend our relationship, but harsh words were exchanged, and I stopped reaching out and focused on passing my exams. I have worked hard on myself by working at my job and helping out at the place I'm staying. I have made some sort of peace about my situation and focused on my future. Now my dad reached out last night to meet up with him to hang, and we planned it for next year on the 4th of January. I agreed, and that was that. My uncle talked to me about what me and my dad spoke about. He was kind of worried about my feelings about meeting my dad because of my feelings towards the day. I explained the best I could is that I just feel indifferent about my dad right now. I am not excited or scared about this meeting. I just see it as a date. I'll be seeing him, and that's it. Whether we meet up or not, I'm not bothered by it at all. My uncle and his wife care a lot and have done so much for me, so I care about what they say. They think I should have a reason to meet up with him since I haven't spoken to him in a while, and worried I could get hurt. Should I have a different mindset towards catching up with my dad? Too long. Didn't read. Dad planned to catch up next year for me and him. We had a fallout, so my uncle thinks that I should be feeling something, but I feel indifferent. Commenter asks how it went. Okay. This reply took a while because I wasn't ready to share, but I'm okay for now. My dad turned up with stepmother and told me that they were having a kid. I congratulated them, and we spent time talking about my future and Dad telling me he can pay for my university studies as long as I keep my grades up. We spoke about a lot, and then we said our goodbyes and I left. I wasn't able to drive home, 'cause I started crying and had to call my uncle to come pick me up. It's been a few weeks since the meeting, and now I'm not sure about my feelings about everything, but focusing on getting ready for uni. So I'm working a lot more. My uncle and I are planning to go check out his other house that was affected by floods. So that's something to look forward to because I need a change of scenery. Thanks for checking on me, it means a lot. You'll do well, OP. Go out there and be successful for yourself. Your uncle and wife are really a gem. That's a couple you need to return the favor or love one day. So have you decided what major you will do in uni, OP? Most definitely. They are honestly the best support I have, and I am forever grateful to them both for sharing their home, family, and love. Sometimes I wonder why they do it, and they always remind me it's because they care and love me, which means a lot. For uni, I'm going for a bachelor's in commerce majoring in commercial law and accounting. Very excited about it and looking forward to it. It will take some years, but that's okay for me right now. The father is not leaving the stepmom, and OP is working to move forward. Now on to the next story. Story 8. Stepmom falsely accused me of assault to block my inheritance at 21. Dad believed her and cut me off. 7 years later, he learned the truth. When I was 21, my stepmother falsely accused me of assault to prevent me from inheriting my father's wealth. My dad believed her and cut me off. 7 years later, he discovered the truth. Hello, everyone. My biological parents divorced when I was 9, and they shared equal custody of me. I spent weekdays with my mom, who lived near my school, and weekends with my dad. Despite their separation, both parents were always kind and gentle towards me. While I was sad they were not together, I understood they both loved me deeply. A few years later, my dad met Gina, who would become my stepmother. When I was 11, my dad introduced her to me. She seemed nice, and my dad was clearly happy. He hoped we would get along well. Gina had twin daughters, Emma and Emily, who were 14 at the time. Raised without their father, the twins were quite immature and would throw public tantrums if they didn't get their way. As an introvert, I quietly observed their behavior. After a year of dating, my dad and Gina decided to marry when I was 12. Even my mom attended the wedding. I was excited to have a new family member. Initially, I thought my stepmother and I got along well. However, a few months after their honeymoon, she told me one morning that she didn't really like me. She said we needed to pretend to get along for my dad's sake when he was around. She also told me to stay out of her way when he wasn't there because she couldn't stand the sight of me as I reminded her of my mom. Hearing her harsh words broke my heart. I had genuinely liked her and hoped for a good relationship. The twins overheard her and later teased me, saying my dad didn't love me and preferred them. I remember crying and telling my mom about it. She immediately called my dad and gave him an earful. My dad assured her that my stepmom would never say such things and that I must have misunderstood her. The following weekend, when I visited my father, my stepmother appeared upset. She stayed silent in front of my dad, but as soon as he left, she angrily whispered to me, threatening that she would ensure I no longer had a dad in my life if I ever told my mom anything about her. She also warned that she would divorce my dad and take all his money, leaving him destitute if I didn't keep quiet. At just 12 years old, I was terrified for my dad, so I nodded in agreement. From that day on, Gina made it her mission to make my life miserable in every way possible. Being a child, I felt I had to endure it silently. Whenever we were alone, she would say hurtful things to me, and I would stay silent, hoping she would eventually stop bullying me. She would insult my height and weight, calling me ugly. I hoped my dad would notice, but he never did. He believed Gina and I had a good relationship and would often force me to go shopping and eat out with her and the kids. She would use my dad's card to pay for our meals, but wouldn't let me eat anything substantial at the restaurant. I was only allowed to have soup or dessert, no main course. I would sit there miserably, watching them finish their meals while crying quietly. I would return home hungry, and she would force me to go to bed without eating. Many nights I cried myself to sleep, both hungry and exhausted from her cruelty. At that point, I was at my wit's end, scared, angry, and frustrated with both my stepmom and my dad. This is why I dreaded visiting my dad on weekends. Every Friday evening, I would try to avoid visiting by coming up with excuses like a stomach ache so I could stay with my mom. My parents started noticing, and my dad would call, expressing sadness at not seeing me. My mom would urge me to tell her if something was wrong, But I always kept quiet, still scared of Gina's threats. When I was 14, my dad decided to take the whole family, including me, on a trip to Greece. Initially, I didn't want to go, but my mother told me it was a good opportunity to travel and see the world, so I reluctantly agreed to join them. As usual, Gina pretended to be sweet and kind in front of my dad, asking about school as if she genuinely cared. I noticed she would subtly tease me in her sweet voice, making hurtful comments that wouldn't outright portray her as mean. For example, whenever I mentioned playing basketball, she would joke that I needed to be taller for that sport, even though I was quite tall for my age. She would then say I should focus more on studies if I ever wanted to be successful. The twins would smirk and call me names like meathead, even though I had better grades than them. My dad would notice but choose to ignore it. Whenever I expressed that her comments hurt me, my dad insisted she was just teasing and that I should lighten up. Gina would nod and tell my dad that I had no sense of humor and needed to learn to have fun. This continued throughout the vacation. One day, in a moment of anger, when she and the twins were teasing me about my weight while I was trying to enjoy the pool, I decided to retaliate. I told the twins that their double chins were embarrassing. Watching their faces fall, I then turned to Gina and told her she shouldn't wear a shrug over her bikini because her huge stomach was still visible, making her look like a penguin. Gina's face turned red with embarrassment, and she ran back to the hotel room. The twins started yelling at me, calling me sexist and saying how horrible it was for me to say such things about them. Later, my dad confronted me, clearly angry. He asked if I had really spoken to my stepmother and stepsisters like that, and when I admitted it, he lectured me about how he had raised me better and that I should never talk to a woman about her weight. I argued back that they were criticizing my weight, looks, and height, but my dad forced me to apologize to Gina, who had locked herself in the bathroom crying after what I said. Gina and the twins made a big show of accepting my apologies. When I got home, I told my mom everything. She spoke to my dad, who tried to blame me for the whole situation. My mother threatened to call CPS on him if Gina ever commented on my weight or looks again. This scared my dad, and after that, Gina never said anything to me. However, she and the twins would blatantly ignore me whenever my dad wasn't around, which I honestly didn't mind. When I was 16, my mom went away for a few days, so I stayed with my dad and Gina. Gina complained about having to cook for one more person, so on my last night, I decided to make dinner since my mom had taught me to cook from a young age to be independent. Gina wanted to invite some friends over when she heard I was cooking. I prepared the meal, set the table, and served dinner. Everyone loved the food and praised me. My dad decided to do the dishes, so I went to my room. From there, I heard Gina and her friends talking loudly outside my window. Her friends were saying how lucky she was to have a nice husband and a great house. When they mentioned how nice it was that I cooked for them, Gina went on a rant about how annoying I was and that she couldn't stand seeing my face. She told her friends she couldn't wait until I was 18, so she wouldn't have to see me every weekend. When one of her friends mentioned again how nice I seemed, Gina admitted she had hoped I would fail at cooking so she could blame me for something. This shocked me because I was trying to be polite to her, even though I knew she hated me. As time went on, Gina's dislike for me only grew. During college, when I visited my dad for a few days at his insistence, Gina would completely ignore me. She would schedule family activities with just dad and the twins, or her and the twins, leaving me at home. If I woke up late during my vacation, she would yell at me, calling me lazy and inconsiderate, even though I always cleaned up after myself. I knew I was always respectful to her because my dad would be furious if I wasn't. Despite being polite and careful not to upset her, it felt like nothing I did was ever enough. She was also inconsiderate of my privacy. She would loudly enter my room while I was sleeping, waking me up or barging in without knocking, making me extremely uncomfortable. She would randomly search my room and look under my bed for reasons unknown to me. She refused to pick up dinner for me but did so for the family, never inviting me to join them. Despite this, I kept quiet, tried to stay out of the way, and spent time with Dad whenever possible. Now on to the main incident. When I turned 21, my dad invited me to visit him, saying he had some important news to share. It had been a while since I last visited, so I felt a bit apprehensive, but my mother encouraged me, saying it was good news. I agreed and booked my tickets. Upon arrival, my dad greeted me warmly at the airport, and we drove back to his place. I asked him about the news, but he said he would reveal everything during the family dinner. When we arrived, I noticed the twins were home too. It had been a while since I had seen Emma and Emily. They didn't acknowledge my presence, and I didn't acknowledge theirs either. That night, during dinner, my dad started by expressing how proud he was to have 3 wonderful children. He spoke about his gratitude for having such a loving family and wanted to share some exciting news. The atmosphere was positive, and I felt a sense of anticipation. As he continued speaking, he looked at each of us with a smile, including Gina, who had been giving me icy glares all day. My dad went on to say that he had recently lost a friend to a heart attack, which made him realize how lucky he was to have us. He had spoken to a lawyer and made a will. Upon hearing the word will, Gina and the twins perked up with excitement. Dad said he had decided to leave the house to my stepmom as she was his wife. Gina beamed with pride and kissed him on the cheek. My dad's house was a 5-bedroom place, and if Gina ever decided to sell it, she could make a fortune. Dad then announced he was leaving his entire retirement account and his car to me. This wasn't just any car. It was a vintage car he had spent a lot of time and money maintaining. The car held sentimental value for both of us, as he often shared stories of his youth and adventures associated with it. As I processed this information, I realized that leaving the car to me was his way of expressing his love. As my dad spoke about his pride in me inheriting the car, Gina's expression shifted from pride to discontent. She exchanged glances with the twins, who seemed equally displeased. It was clear that the idea of me inheriting a significant sum of money and the beloved vintage car stoked their resentment. Dad, apparently unaware of the tension in the room, continued to explain how he would leave the joint bank account he shared with Gina to the twins. Since Gina was a homemaker, the money was entirely my dad's. He expressed his wish for the account to be equally divided between them, assuring them they would have money and a house to live in, so they needn't worry if anything happened to him. I thought this arrangement was fair and had no issues with it. However, the twins immediately voiced their disappointment, saying they had expected more. They argued that my dad should also leave them his retirement account, claiming I didn't need it anyway. When my dad questioned their reasoning, Gina chimed in, stating that as a guy, I should find my own way, whereas they were women and needed more money for financial security. My dad reminded Gina that he had already taken care of their college funds, and now they were also getting a house and a bank account, so they had nothing to worry about. Despite this, Gina kept insisting that I didn't deserve so much money. My dad firmly reiterated that his decision was final. I sat quietly observing as the argument escalated. Suddenly, Gina burst into tears. We looked at her, startled, and my dad reassured her that there was no need to cry since he had divided everything fairly. Through her sobs, Gina claimed she had kept silent for years to protect the family but couldn't hold it in any longer. The room fell into awkward silence, and my dad and I exchanged confused looks. Despite the palpable tension, he gently encouraged Gina to share what was weighing on her mind. Amidst her sobs, Gina began to recount how a few years ago I had supposedly tried to force myself on her, but she had kept it hidden to protect me. I was stunned, completely blindsided by the unexpected accusation. Before I could even grasp what was happening, Gina started elaborating on her fabricated story. She told my dad that after our vacation in Greece, where we had an argument about weight and height, I would constantly stare at her and attempt to enter her bedroom uninvited. I sat frozen in my chair as she continued to concoct tales of how I would try to barge in every time she took a shower or get uncomfortably close to her face when we were alone. She claimed she dreaded having me over every weekend because she feared I would behave the same way with the twins. I tried to defend myself, vehemently denying the baseless accusations and yelling at her for having the audacity to make up such lies. But Gina continued to cry as if she were the victim. She went on about how as I grew older, I made her increasingly uncomfortable, and on one occasion when we were alone, I allegedly tried to force myself on her. My eyes widened in shock, and the blood drained from my face upon hearing such a serious accusation. My dad looked utterly confused and concerned, his eyes darting between me and Gina, clearly at a loss for words. Gina continued her story, claiming she had suffered in silence for years, afraid to speak up for the sake of the family. I yelled at Gina, calling her a psycho, insisting there was no way I had ever looked at her inappropriately, let alone touched her. Gina yelled back that she was done keeping her silence and needed to expose a monster like me. The twins began shouting furiously at me, accusing me of putting their mother through this and using words like rapist and molester. My head was spinning, and it all felt like a bad dream. I couldn't believe how a pleasant evening had turned into such wild accusations. I looked at my dad for support, but he remained quiet, clearly trying to process everything Gina had said. He asked her if what she had spoken was true, and Gina nodded, asserting that she would never lie to him about his own son and that as his wife, he should believe her. While I tried to defend myself, my dad asked Gina why she hadn't spoken up earlier. She explained that she feared no one would believe her since I was a minor trying to do inappropriate things with her. As a stepmother who had married my dad, she felt people would dismiss her words. She claimed she had to bear this silently to protect the family. I was crying at this point, begging my dad not to believe her. I never imagined Gina could fabricate such atrocious lies, especially after what she had put me through over the years. Unfortunately, Gina's manipulation had strained my relationship with my dad, and he seemed torn between trusting me and believing his wife. The twins, influenced by their mother's narrative, supported Gina's false accusations and yelled at me to leave their house. I yelled back that it was my dad's place and they shouldn't believe their mother's lies. My dad, amidst the chaos, looked up at me and told me to leave the house until the matter was resolved. Felt like a punch to the gut. Being rejected by my own father, who chose to believe his second wife over me, left me hurt, confused, and betrayed. I packed my belongings and left the home I once thought was mine. I flew straight to my mother, who was shocked to see me at her doorstep. When I told her everything, she was furious and ready to confront my stepmom, but I asked her not to, knowing how unpredictable and dangerous Gina could be. If Gina could concoct such wild lies to get me kicked out of my dad's house because she was upset about the inheritance, she could do much more to ruin my life. I couldn't risk having her in my life any longer, which is why I decided to cut off my dad permanently. Since he chose to believe her, he didn't deserve to have me in his life. Later, my mom told me that my dad called her to express his shame in having a son like me and declared he wanted nothing to do with me. Despite her attempts to defend me, it was in vain. My dad's side of the family, convinced by Gina's story, also attacked my mom, accusing her of raising a pervert. I can't even begin to fathom the pain my mom felt hearing such words about her son. The damage was done and Gina had won. I wish I could say my life improved after cutting her off, but it didn't. Gina and the twins continued bombarding me with vile text messages, threatening that I should stay away from my dad forever. It got so bad that I had to change my number to escape them. Even after that, things didn't get better. Gina's actions left me terrified of being around any woman, fearing I would be falsely accused again and lose my job and career. I was scared to meet anyone or go on dates. Throughout this ordeal, my mom stood by me and believed me. I went through severe depressive and suicidal episodes, and my mom flew in to live with me for a couple of months to make sure I was all right. Slowly, my mental health improved, and I started to rebuild my life. Eventually, I met a wonderful woman named Mara, who brought joy back into my life. She has completely changed my life, and my mom adores her. Mara and my mom mean everything to me, and thanks to them, I continue to live my life with purpose. Just a week ago, I received a call from an unknown number. Thinking it might be Amazon, I answered. To my shock, it was my dad. I was stunned to hear his voice after nearly 7 years. He sounded old. When I asked how he got my new number, he dodged the question and asked if I was doing okay. I remained silent and then told him not to bother me again since I had nothing to say to him. That's when my dad broke down and started crying. He begged for my forgiveness, admitting how wrong he was to abandon his own son. My curiosity was piqued, so I waited for him to explain. My dad then revealed that Gina had been cheating on him with his best friend for years. When he confronted her with proof, She stopped hiding and confessed she was tired of being married to a pathetic man like him. Gina admitted she had only married him for his money and despised being with him. When my dad pressed her further, she confessed to fabricating all the accusations against me because she hated me and wanted all his wealth for herself and her daughters. As you can imagine, my dad divorced her, and she got nothing from the marriage due to her affair. Despite her lawyers fighting for alimony, my dad said he had been waiting to divorce Gina so he could officially reach out to me and apologize for what he put me through. He expressed his desire to make up for lost time and rebuild our father-son relationship. At the mention of father and son, I couldn't help but scoff. I told him that he was no father of mine after how quickly he abandoned me for his wife's nasty accusations. I told him I wanted nothing to do with him and that he should stop bothering me. I ended the call and hoped he got the message. Since then, I've been bombarded with calls from my dad and his side of the family, who I don't even talk to, saying that my dad has suffered enough and that I'm just making it harder on him. Their messages leave me feeling conflicted. Am I the bad guy for refusing to talk to my dad after he cut me off due to Gina's false accusations? Update 1. My post was locked, but hopefully it's okay now. I've posted the link and tried my best with spacing. I'm on mobile. To everyone who offered support and advice, thank you so much. Your words helped me see things more clearly. I'm not just furious at my dad for believing my stepmother over me, but also for all those years she harassed me while he did nothing to protect me. I was just a child, and she blackmailed and manipulated me while I kept quiet. I think it's time I open up to my mom and let her know exactly what I went through because I know she'll understand. Update 2. Hi everyone. It's been a week since my last update. For those concerned about my mental health, I'm doing okay. Thank you for your kindness. I booked tickets for my mom to come visit me so I could tell her and Mara everything. They already sensed something was up. I started by telling them about Dad's contact after all these years, which shocked my mom. She asked why he reached out and I explained. She had no idea he had gone through a divorce and was furious at Gina for what she put everyone through. Then I told them about how Gina would manipulate me when I was just 12 years old. I recounted how she bullied me when Dad wasn't around and threatened to divorce him if I ever told him. I didn't realize how traumatic these events were until I began to open up about them one by one. By the time I finished, I had tears streaming down my face. Mara and my mom were crying quietly as well. My mom immediately hugged me, repeatedly saying that I shouldn't have kept this all in and that it was okay to share. I cried for half an hour while my mom held me. Mara also told me that no child should have gone through what I did, and that it was completely fine if I chose never to speak to my dad again since he should have protected me. My mom nodded, saying I had no obligations to explain anything to my dad because when I needed him the most, he chose to believe his wife over me. The only reason he was reaching out now was that he was lonely and had no family left. That's when I realized they were right. My dad perhaps never really loved me because if he did, he would have never believed I was capable of such things. Since then, I felt much lighter after sharing my past with Gina out loud with my mom and Mara. I've blocked my dad and will continue to block any other family member who tries to interject in my life. I owe no explanations to those who chose to abandon me. Update 3. Wow. It's been 6 months since I wrote this post, and I can't believe how much my life has changed since then. I want to start by sharing some happy news. I proposed to Mara and she said yes. My mom is thrilled for us, and we're considering moving closer to her because the schools are better there. Since both of us can work from anywhere, it makes sense for our future family. Thanks to advice from people on Reddit, I've also started therapy. It's helping me feel better step by step. I'm trying to focus on the positive aspects of my life, like Mara and my mom. They've always been there for me, and I'm deeply grateful for their support. The past has been tough, but I'm looking forward to a brighter future, free from all the lies and drama. Now on to the next story. Story 9. Girlfriend told everyone she was excited about our planned baby, but then I found toxic herbs in our drawer and learned she caused a miscarriage for social media attention. I, 28M, have been dating my girlfriend, 26F, for 4 years. She has told me she always wanted children. We just didn't actively try for one, though I never pressured her into having a baby. It was more so her idea. I make enough and we own a home, so having a baby is something we can do. So, to clarify, I'm not mad at her for this. I'm extremely concerned, and I feel like everything she has said about her wanting a baby was a lie. Abortion is also legal up to 21 weeks of pregnancy in our state. So, she told me she was pregnant. She was having symptoms and took a test. She was happy about it and excited. I was happy as well and offered to make an appointment for her. We both went together and she was 6 weeks pregnant. We have been planning. She even told her friends and family. She ended up having a miscarriage at around 9 weeks. It was sudden and she was upset, and I comforted her about it. It seemed very tough for her, so I did my best to try and make her feel better. I had to retrieve something from a drawer in our bedroom, and I found some herbs covered under a bag. It was pennyroyal and mugwort. I was confused because I have heard of pennyroyal being used to cause self-abortions. I asked her about it and she immediately became defensive and told me that she didn't know where it came from. I kept trying to ask her about it and she ended up telling me she used it to have a miscarriage. She was crying and I was just in shock. I asked her why. I told her she didn't have to lie to me about it and I'm confused because she was the one who really wanted a baby. She didn't give me an answer about it. I told her that we need to go to the hospital to make sure she isn't hurt since pennyroyal is toxic. But she kept declining. It's been a few days and she seems fine. I've been trying to ask her about this, but she just says she doesn't want to talk about it. Apparently, she was telling her friends and family she had a miscarriage and has been accepting condolences. She's avoiding this, but I don't want to push it towards her anymore. I'm not too sure what to do about this because I'm worried she might be having some type of mental breakdown or something. I eventually told her that she should not tell me about having a baby again and I can't trust her about it anymore. She was upset hearing that, but what else could I say about something like this? This might make me a huge but in the back of my mind has been thinking she might have did this for attention from her friends and family. I don't know what to do and I feel like a horrible person for even thinking this stuff. Edit. I'm thankful for all the info on the herbs and all of the advice. I can't comment for a few hours because I'm going to not be on Reddit, but I'm going to talk to her tonight. And tomorrow or whenever everything is calmed down, I will make an update. Update 1, December 2nd, 2024. Firstly, for some context, we have a Planned Parenthood that specializes in abortions like 5 minutes away. I understand people thinking she didn't want to get an abortion because of protesters. I completely understand. I drive by that specific place every single day for work. I have seen no protesters. It's usually empty besides a few cars on the side of the road, but I still understand why she wouldn't want a medical abortion. From reading the comments, I asked her why. What was her goal here? She was trying really hard to avoid the conversation and left the room, but I apologize if this makes me a butt. But I told her if we can't have a conversation about this, I have to end the relationship. She came back in and said the reason why she did this was because she never felt like her family gave her enough attention in life and didn't feel supported by them, so she wanted to tell them she had a miscarriage so they can feel bad for her. I was confused because she could have just gotten a medical abortion and lied about it instead of just harming her body with a toxic herb. I asked her about that and she told me she wanted to have the experience of having an actual miscarriage. I was so confused and in shock, so I didn't say much else because all of this just sounded crazy to me. She told me she didn't want me mad at her and she doesn't want to break up, and she was literally begging me to not break up with her. I asked her, is there any chance the baby wouldn't have been mine? She said no. I told her she needs to get therapy ASAP. I thankfully make enough to afford therapy, and I told her I will pay for her if she just please go to therapy. She agreed. I also told her she needs to go to the hospital and I was telling her all of your comments about the septic shock that can happen and liver and kidney damage, and that kind of scared her into going to the hospital to get checked out. We went to the hospital last night and thankfully she is okay. Apparently, she drank around 1 cup of it a day for a few days. I found out she was also taking some other things, high doses of vitamin C, turmeric, parsley. That's pretty much it for now, but I'm not too sure where to go from here. I love her and I do want to be with her, but all of this is so out of the blue. Thanks for all of the comments on the last post. If anything else happens, I'll make another update comment where OP has replied. Commenter 1. She sounds like she has some serious mental health issues. Like others have said, if you choose to stay, then I would be cautious moving forward having kids with her. She's willing to cause herself self-harm for the sake of attention. There is no telling what she would do if you guys have already had the child. I've seen mothers fake their child's illness for attention before. She comes off as deeply troubled and manipulative. I don't think she wants to hurt anyone out of malice, but it's still very concerning. If you stay, therapy is a must. OP, thank you. Yeah, the idea of having a baby is well off the table now. I'm not too sure where I'm going to go with this, but I'm heavily thinking about leaving the relationship after reading the comments. I'm just worried about her possibly harming herself if I do break up with her. Update 2. December 4th, 2024. A lot has happened from my last post and now. Everything is calmer now. I'm hoping this will be my last update post. Apologies since this is going to be long. In my last post, I told her she needed to go to therapy ASAP. Told her I will pay and everything. I just hoped for the love of God for her to please go to therapy. That was the only thing I wanted. I haven't set up anything yet because she told me she doesn't want to go to therapy now. She told me she will never do what she did again and doesn't believe she needs therapy. I was going back and forth with her on this, but she was very insistent on not wanting any therapy. I told her I can't move on in this relationship if she doesn't do therapy. She was arguing with me about it and told me if I loved her, I will stay in this relationship regardless, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. I was pretty pissed hearing that because not only did she purposely miscarry the baby we planned for, she harmed herself for no reason, in her words, to experience actual miscarriage, and I can't even trust her anymore. I was thinking about telling her parents at this point, and I accidentally brought it up out of worry of her mental health / me being pissed off, and she begged me, got on the ground, begged me to not tell her parents. I took her word because I didn't want her to lose her mind even more over this. I told her I absolutely have to leave this relationship. I told her it isn't my responsibility anymore because this has honestly been making me lose my mind too. I was holding it back, but I can't really take it anymore. Also, yesterday before this fight, she publicly stated on Facebook that she had a miscarriage and was tore up about it, accepting condolences again in the comments. I brought that up to her and she told me the same thing in my last post. She was pretty much just wanting to feel important to friends / family. She was so nonchalant about it and honestly seemed like she thought I wouldn't care. I told her to stop posting about it and to stop telling people. Back to when we were having the fight, I told her seriously, I can't be with her anymore. I will allow you to stay here or you can go back to your parents. She was laying on the ground crying at this point. I had my phone ready because my gut feeling was telling me that she might do something to herself. She would come out of the room she was packing in and come close to me and hug me out of nowhere. She said that if I'm breaking up with her, she wants a last final hug. The wildest thing is she came out of the room with one of my shirts on, a shirt she was not wearing before, take it off right in front of me and tells me, "Here's your shirt back." I don't know what she was trying to do. She finally ended up leaving and went to her parents. Right before she left, she was crying and I think it started to hit her that I was actually being serious. She was messaging me and calling me constantly, ranging from her just fixing this together, saying she wants therapy now, and her saying she will never do what she did again. I've been ignoring all of it. I realize this is not my responsibility now and her parents can take care of it like what my worry has been. Apparently, she did try to harm herself. Her mom messaged me about it. She said that her daughter is at the hospital and I'm assuming now on a hold because she tried to kill herself. She is physically fine. That is the last of it and I'm thinking this will be my last update. I am not going back to her and I'm going to try and stop thinking about all of this and get a good lock for my door. Thanks for all of the advice on the last post. Edit 1. I am telling her parents now. If anything happens, I will just update it here. Edit 2. I ended up telling her parents. I had messages relating to this between me and her, took photos of the herbs she used, told them everything. Thankfully, they didn't accuse me or do anything drastic and thanked me for telling them. They said they will tell the hospital what I told them. Not too sure what's going on at the moment or what's going to happen after since she is being held right now. I will update this if anything else happens. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.